Hello! Welcome to Beast Fables. This is the live show that I play with my friends, and we explore the huge world of tiny beasts set in the Scottish environment, forests, mountains, valleys, rivers, lochs, and beyond. My name is Brian. I run Dungeons on a Dime, which is an entry-level tabletop role-playing game imprint publisher thing. I run the game. My pronouns are he, him, and I am joined today by Ver. But before we get into introducing ourselves properly, I just want to say thank you to Roll20 for sponsoring our lovely little show. They have got a really cool website, and we are playing on Roll20 in all of our shows. So you can see here, we've got a cool little grid. I'm just going to draw a little smiley face. Roll20 is great. You can draw on it. There are character sheets. We do lots of doodles of animals during the show because we have little restraint. However, you can see that you can do dice, you can roll things. We even have a full set of character sheets. This is Balthazar. I'm covering up Ver's drawing for a small amount of time to show you. Look, there's a character sheet. You can roll dice that is just cool. You can see him roll on the screen. That was a natural, critical, amazing for success, and it was great.
That has never happened to me in game.
It's never going to happen again. I've used it up.
Yeah.
We're playing the Adventures on a Dime system, and you're going to get a really fun look into character kind of creation and basic adventures in this lovely interlude. We're taking a break from the story of Balthazar and Pipistrelle and switching the camera over to Grear, a new and interesting hare. I am joined today by Ver, who will be playing Grear. Ver, could you please introduce yourself?
I can certainly do that. My name is Ver. I use they, them pronouns. I am an illustrator and comic artist. In fact, I do believe that it is my picture that is on today's little thumbnail for our game. It is a picture of Grear herself, the character that I will be playing. A meadow hare operative of the Tusk Legion, who is quick, curt, and perhaps a little sinister.
I'm recreating it with my mouse.
She has a little cat face. Whoa, look at her go. Big knife. Perfect. Whoa, what's that? Her tail? Oh, that's her legs. Oh, she's doing like a big old Sonic run.
Yes.
Well, I'd say that's a pretty generous interpretation of her physicality, but that's what art is all about, isn't it? Knife.
No.
That's incredible, because that's exactly what she sounds like when she doesn't say knife. She says nof.
Nof. If you're not watching us live or you're listening on the podcast, we like to draw lots of stupid images, but you're probably not missing out on much because we're dumb. Yes.
They are very interpretive.
And we would be joined by Atlanta today, but unfortunately she's not available. So I'm just going to shout her out anyway. Atlanta plays Pipistrelle in the main show, and I am more than sure that Atlanta and I will be doing our own little interlude in the future and doing some little solo characters, which is fun. But yeah, today we are creating the character of Grear, who is an interesting figure, and then we're going to be playing through an exciting little adventure that I have strung together. I think I called it Rumors and Fire or something like that.
Smoke on the Wind.
Smoke on the Wind. Past Brian is much cooler than present Brian.
Well, past Brian wasn't, in the spotlight in the moment, and perhaps coming down from a coffee high from earlier in the day.
Yeah, coffee high is the whole reason. But yeah, let's start with Grear. So, Ver, please talk about Grear and say hello. To introduce us to Grear.
I have already said hello, but as Grear...
Introduce us to Grear, that's the words
yes.
I'm using.
Well, Grear is a meadow hare. There are two species of hare in Scotland. There are... Can you remind me the mountain hare? Am I remember that
Yeah,
correctly?
it's mountain hares and meadow hares.
And meadow hares. So Grear is a meadow hare, so she has that kind of Actually, Brian, would you be able to click onto my bio and info tab so people can see her little avatar? You can kind of see her face up close. So Grear kind of has that characteristic markings of a meadow hare, brown grayish fur with a few dapples of white fur on her around her eye and on the other side of her muzzle and chest. Much like the beasts in this world, she is somewhat anthropomorphized. She wears a loose jacket, and she, unlike my other character, who's part of the No Pants gang, Grear wears pants. Baggy, with pockets for tools and useful for like I imagine when she goes, gets the zoomies, she goes on all fours, but she's able to use her hands in a similar way that us humans can, in which case she goes on, she assumes a bipedal stance. And I think one of her striking features is it's something that I noticed on meadow hares is they have these reddish brown eyes that, especially in some light, in certain types of light, they just look straight up red. It's very intimidating. I was very captivated by that, and because we allow ourselves for some artistic liberties, Grear has red eyes, and they kind of add to her aura, let's say. She also actually has some scarring on the side of her face, on the
other side that we can't see.
Yeah, the other side, we don't see it on the avatar. It's visible on the thumbnail graphic. I have a larger version of that graphic on my Twitter and Tumblr, which I will boost at the end of this game.
If people want to swap over and look at it now, it is at Verface.
Verface at Twitter. It's one of the top graphics right now. It's also on the promo graphic from Dungeons on a Dime for this episode. You can very clearly see she has a kind of scar that goes over her eye and a little bit on the sides of her cheek. And I think that's as far as the physical description of Grear.
I mean, I kind of want to know how Grear got that scar.
Well, Grear has been... I don't think that was... Those are like scars. It's kind of these 3 visible scars. I imagine she has more scars, but they're just kind of overgrown with fur because, animals are hairier than us and kind of can conceal these things more easily. Well, due to her past jobs, she worked as something of a bounty hunter. She has been in more than one scuffle in her life, and these scuffles were life and death, and she has clearly emerged the victor, but not without some marks to show the hardships of these victories. I don't have there's no particular story behind them. This is the scar from my nemesis. It is very much just it comes with the job.
Yeah, it's one of many.
Yeah, one of many, but the ones on her, because the fur on the face is a little finer. They are these kind of visible patches of scarred over tissue. No doubt some of them tended to by the stitchers, let's say doctor caste of the beasts, that she has some familiarity with. So if you're building her, so that was kind of her physical description.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to personality, I can talk about that a little bit more along with her jobs.
Yeah.
Do you want to kind of do you want to do a little tutorial-ish kind of mid-season thing of how we build characters?
Yeah, let's do that, because some people might be joining a little bit later, so it's nice to this is a good, going to be a couple good jumping in episodes. If you've not seen Adventures on a Dime, if you've not heard of Beast Fables, just see what our little shindig is about. So Adventures on a Dime is a very simple entry-level role-playing system that's designed to be as versatile for lots of different settings and stories as it is fun to play and easy to get.
And it is really fun to play.
I'm also really happy with just how flexible it is. I came into this wanting to distill a lot of the idea of Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder, a lot of these very popular, very heavy hardcore role-playing games, and distill a lot of the concepts they have in the rules, so that by playing Adventures on a Dime, you get a taste of them, and if you wanted to go to more complex role-playing games, you now have experience, you now understand some of the basic concepts, you can then move forward. But I feel like it's kind of its own beast now, and it's very fun.
Definitely. I really enjoy it.
So in Adventures on a Dime, from Dungeons on a Dime, my publishing imprint,
Fancy.
You play adventurers. Adventurers are competent explorers, and they basically are summarized by their jobs and their abilities. Adventurers have 3 abilities: cunning, vigor, and willpower. And whenever they need to do something that is complicated, they make a test against one of these stats, as decided by the narrator. So in this game, I'm the narrator. I'm explaining the world, presenting the challenges, and the adventurers, i.e. today, will be finding solutions and doing actions in the story to move the story forward. So whenever you need to make a test, you can click this little roll button, and it will roll a dice for you. If you roll a 1, you get a hijinks result. Whatever you wanted to do goes terribly wrong, or is very much has an unintended effect. If you roll a 2 or a 3, you get a complication. You barely manage to pull it off, but not without consequence. So you succeed at what you're doing, but it comes with an extra cost. And then if you get a 4 or higher, you get a success. So you do what you want to do, and the story moves forward. If you roll the highest that your die can roll, you get a critical success, so things go even better than expected. The stats that you have here, cunning, vigor, and willpower, can be of different sizes of die. So if you've got a d10, then there's a much higher chance that you're going to get a success, or even a critical success if you roll a 10, like in this example
Grear.
here. Loving it with Grear.
Yeah. Well, so for Greer stats, I have it in my head that her greatest strength is her adaptability, her problem solving, which is usually represented by cunning. So I would probably like to allocate her highest dice into cunning, as she is someone who will try to usually apply a smart solution to problems, or a solution kind of utilizing inventiveness, or some kind of maybe not skullduggery, but might as well, who knows what she's gonna be up against. But
she's got a very tactical and organized mind.
Yeah. So the base dice that we can choose, if I remember correctly, if you add them all up, they have to be 22 or 24. Can you remind me?
24.
24.
So that means you could have an even spread, like the average adventurer uses d8s for all stats. So we'll show, I'll just put d8s in for all of them. Oh, my lovely Cinder's done it. So the average adventurer is resourceful, fit, and confident. You can see above each stat that the size of base die gives you a nice little keyword you could use to understand your adventurer's strengths and weaknesses. So for example, willpower there could be present, could be confident. If you've got a d12, the highest die, you've got a heroic willpower. You're able to face any odd with your energy and zeal. If you've got a d4, then you're fearful, you're scared of everything and are worried for your own safety, which are all traits that adventurers could have. So the average spread is, say, d8, so 8, 16, 24, but you could have higher die and lower die in any combination across these 3 statistics. So, what do you think are Grear's abilities?
I feel she has a pretty even spread. Like, Balthazar's very min-maxy. My other character is a toad called Balthazar, and his defining features are that he's heroic and foolish. So he has a d4 in cunning and a d12 in willpower. I feel Grear is more balanced. I mean, to be perfect, like, because I thought it's actually 22 when I was thinking about her spreads. So these d8s actually kind of sound really nice, but I don't know if that's kind of boring.
Well, I don't think any combination of character is boring. I think something that I'm going to be playing with, I have a Patreon where I build new rules for Adventures on a Dime, and I'm kind of expanding the robustness of the system. One of the things that happens, which we'll get onto with jobs, is that you learn new skills and your character becomes more applicable. They learn new things. One of the things I was thinking would be another good development for your character is the ability to swap the sizes of die. So, lowering one die and increasing another to represent how your character's strengths change over time. It doesn't mean you get more higher die. You never change from having a total of 24, but for example, Balthazar, who's started this adventure, who's very, very high willpower and very, very low cunning, might find that his willpower wanes a little bit as his cunning increases. And that might be represented through, knowing that he's not infallible, but also being more resourceful and witty about that. No, that's impossible. Balthazar is a knight of justice.
Yeah. Well, I actually have to say that I think I quite like the spread of d8s. She's kind of because she's supposed to be someone who's very competent. Regardless of her personality or how she engages in things, she does have a history. She's a more experienced character than Balthazar and Pipistrel, as Brian had explained that characters are kind of defined by their jobs and features, and the way this works, if I can explain it while I'm talking about it, is if your character has a job, they have accumulated a certain amount of skills, 3 skills per job. They then gain a trait and a flaw also based off of that job. And if you're performing some kind of action that has to do, or where you can apply your past experiences, you can basically tag a skill and you get an advantage on that roll. So you get to roll twice and take the higher result. So a character like Grear has more experience under her belt. She has done more things. So I kind of don't mind having her this even spread, because it's very likely that because of her experience, she's going to have a very good chance of tagging these past skills and basically getting a higher chance of success just on account of getting to maybe roll twice. So I'm kind of fine moving into her job section, as I think resourceful, fit, and confident does actually describe her very well.
This is what I love about the little words, is that it gives you a good sense of the character, and it helps you with role-playing them as well. Because you think, how would my character physically or mentally react in the situation? Well, Greer's confident. I don't think she'd shy away from this. Or Greer's fit. I don't think she would be daunted by climbing a rock wall or something.
Yeah, I do quite like that. So we can move on to the job. So we're kind of getting a little bit into the backstory of the character. We discussed this a little bit with Brian, how much we want to talk about it, but I think it's going to be fun to go over it a little bit here, and then kind of flesh it out of the game and kind of see what that means. So her first job is going to be an apprentice tanner.
Before we get into specific jobs have 6 things that you need to fill out. All adventurers start with one job, and then you can learn skills and make new jobs as you progress in the story. Jobs have a job title, so apprentice tanner. They have 3 skills, which are general sort of verb-led sentences. They're kind of doing things. You're good at doing this, you're good at doing this, you've learned how to do this. And they also then come with 1 trait and 1 flaw. A trait is something that you have learnt on the job, a perspective, a piece of experience. It's something that you have learned and has become a formative part of you. It doesn't have to be a skill in the sense of, I've learned how to climb walls if I'm a ranger. It could be, I've got an appreciation for nature, for example. And then a flaw is something negative that you have picked up on the job. It could be something physical. It could be that you've worked, that your sleep schedule is messed up because you've been working night shifts as a nurse. It could be something mental. It's a representation that not all experiences in life are nice, and it's something that can be interesting and make your experience as an adventurer a little bit more difficult as your flaws are tagged by the narrator. So just like the adventurer can tag a skill to gain advantage on a roll, the narrator tries to tag traits and flaws, giving advantage or disadvantage on a roll, respectively, to show the strengths and weaknesses of the character outside of their own control.
Indeed.
Yes, words.
Yeah, so starting with some of Greer's
so Greer's first job was apprentice tanner.
I feel as part of this job she would have learned, this is something similar to what I think Balthazar has as a squire, but taking care of her tools. Probably taking care of tools and organizing. I imagine she was working under somebody as an apprentice, a mentee, and would have to kind of do these more menial tasks that teach her how to maintain the tools of her trade. So would these be fine skills, you reckon?
Type them in, and we'll see how they phrase. Because the fun thing is, you can type into any of these boxes. Shout out to Roll20, awesome character sheet. I mean, Wes Baker was the coder I worked with on this, and he did a fantastic job. But Roll20 is a really nice website to have all this sort of like technical stuff. It just makes it very easy. There are loads of character sheets for all sorts of systems. But if you want to play Adventures of Dime, come love us.
Because she just as a quick note, she's gonna have apprentice, tanner, and then journeyman or master. Journeyman. Okay. So I think the lines are gonna be in journeyman, tanner, and as an apprentice, it's gonna be a little bit more of the menial thing. So I have these two. I'm not gonna lie, I'm slightly referencing the character sheet of a previous character that I played in Dungeons on Dime, Sir Eleanor, the Knight of Sorrows, who, because she was a knight medic, and previously she was a mortician, and there is some overlap of certain phrasings that I'm kind of looking at to help myself here, because they kind of helped. I feel like a trait of the apprentice tanner would be something to the extent of being like unshakable, because it is a bit of a gruesome job.
Unshakable or unflinching. I feel like you have because you've worked a lot with creatures. You don't have a third skill, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I just haven't thought of it yet.
Oh, cool. Unflinching is a good term because you're not really shocked by a lot of things anymore as a tanner, because you work with a lot of like bodies and animals and stuff like
grass stuff.
Yeah.
Gross. Ew.
And I think maybe for your flaw, I don't want to lean into a trope. I know a lot of very caring and emotional people who work in some very grim fields. I mean, like, if you go on YouTube, there are some morticians out there who are hilarious. So I don't want to say cold as a flaw. I know that Grear, we kind of talked about Grear's personality, is very severe and curt. But I don't necessarily think like cold emotions is a flaw that you have gotten.
Because she's kind of like pragmatic, and she's she's not uncaring because she joined the Tusk Legion for the reasons that she did. Maybe the phrasing like well, I was actually thinking, because there's a certain position that the tanners have, something like not grim, but or maybe this could be the journeyman tanner flaw, actually, the way that other people perceive her. Not ostracized, because they're not, but intimidating, maybe? Or
I feel like that's a trait / flaw that we would be picking up later. And I'd say like intimidating is more of a positive element. Maybe like taboo. Like the flaw is something that inhibits you as an adventurer.
Yeah, so
I'd say
would be in apprentice or in journeyman?
In apprentice, because we're working on apprentice right now.
Yeah, okay.
I'd say like maybe the flaw is like socially taboo. In that when people know that you're a tanner, they start to withdraw from you. There's a like an element of that.
Yeah, it's not what she does, but like what she is in terms of how others react to it. Not it isn't coming from her as in her personality, but the social standing that she has. So I need a third skill for so taking care of equipment, organizing, and
making
we just literally tanning.
Well, I was gonna say like making chemicals. Essentially, maybe not the whole
Oh.
tanning process, but you're the one taking buckets of piss and making saltpeter and getting all of the ingredients that you need to tan. You're good with the messy business.
Um,
Well, let's say basic alchemy.
basic. Yeah, because I guess she might have picked
No. Preserving.
preserving.
Because it incorporates that idea of like knowledge of things going off, preserving, salting, that sort of thing. You're very good at preservative alchemy and that sort of thing. So that was your apprenticeship as a tanner, and that was all of the dirty business that you need to know as a tanner. But hopefully, when you become a journeyman or master, you're able to then foist that sort of stuff off onto another apprentice. So, as a journeyman, what sort of skills would you be practicing every day?
The thing that I just like the phrasing of is following the lines.
Yes, we talked about this. Could you describe what following the lines is?
Yeah. Following the lines means following the lines that you need to cut up pelts or creatures. And they are... The knowledge isn't forbidden, but it is taboo because you are cutting up other beasts.
I think until the recent forming of the Guild of Stitches, it was also something that only the tanners knew how to do.
Yes. And
like, knowing this knowledge made you a tanner.
Yeah.
I feel like it's sort of it's like if you knew how to do this, you were a tanner, even if you didn't want to use it. And it's sort of, that's the taboo element of creatures don't want to know or speak to tanners because they don't want to learn this information and kind of become a tanner, even accidentally.
Yeah. So she knows how to follow the lines. I suppose she would know tracking, right? Because the tanners kind of double as bounty hunters as well.
Well, I'd say that's their main role, actually.
Well, yeah, because they're not. Yeah, they don't go around just being like, "Well, I need to cut some bodies up." They're. I do believe that from what you had said, that tanning became a little bit of a additional feature of their job of being able to take care of the things that others are unwilling to or unable to.
Yeah.
So she's able to track things. And I believe maybe something would be good to go with that. Kind of the hardiness of a lifestyle where you're kind of being a bounty hunter. Maybe vigilance?
Vigilance. I think tirelessness.
Tirelessness, I'll take it.
Like, it's sort of, you're able to stay up for like 48 hours and stay, and it's sort of like that hounding. You, as a journeyman, and kind of it's like that transition from apprentice to journeyman, you, as you were kind of following your master, you would have been the one keeping the watch all the way through the night while your master got to sleep. So that if your bounty, your quarry moved, then you could pounce on them at a moment's notice. But your master needed to sleep because they were better than you. So like, you've got this tirelessness that is going to be useful for you as a master as well. Yeah.
Okay. So tireless, a good trait that comes with this job would be, I mean, would straight up just, because, like, I don't know if I'm going to be rolling for it because it's a little grotesque, but I do know how to tan because I'm a tanner, or is that implicit just because of my job?
I think it's part of your job. I'd also say it's probably like preservative alchemy is what you'd tag for that.
Okay,
or following the lines.
That's part of the process, because it's that thing of like, if my job was a cook, I probably wouldn't write cooking. It would maybe be like gathering herbs or stuff like that, and then it's like it's implicit that I'm probably good at the job that I had.
Or if you wanted to do something really specific, you could be like designing. What's the word? Haute couture is like the clothing of it, but the
just like
fancy Michelin star stuff.
Yeah. Trait, couture.
Couture, beauty, grace.
Fashion.
New character. Trait. Johnny Montana. I think maybe that's where the intimidation comes in.
Righto. Yeah.
Oh, no.
I am
We
now
said, what was it? Sinister aura. Sinister energy.
Sinister vibes.
Mm.
No, I will just write sinister.
Yeah.
As I guess that's kind of like the flip side of the social taboo is there is they're not just joyriding out here, they do perform a service that people need, and at times it can be used, the knowledge of your standing can be used to your advantage, so I think that would be a trait.
It's also like you can do anything in a sinister way, which is why it's not a skill.
Yeah, she's not, because she herself is not like sinister, like, she's not malicious, she's not like walking around rubbing her two little hands together just like I can't wait to cut somebody up. But there's some kind of leeway, I suppose, that comes with a job in terms of what you can not get away with, because that sounds sinister, but it is so maybe actually that works. The flaw would be maybe it can be a flip side of unflinching, because it's not like she's unempathetic, but I guess that's I kind of back myself in the corner here, because like she is empathetic, sympathetic. She doesn't like express it, but that's just a personality thing. I don't think that she isn't caring.
Well, something we talked about, because a flaw doesn't have to be directly like the job. It can be something that's happened on the job and developed through performing the job. We talked about Grear's the kind of bounties that Grear takes. So that might be how the flaw comes in. What kind of bounties does Grear take, in your own words?
Oh, the fact that she only takes behemoths. Or that? Is that? Because it was a very brief conversation, so part of me like doesn't remember if we said.
Oh, okay. So you said that Grear only takes predators, so beasts that exclusively eat other beasts.
Yeah.
And I feel like your flaw might be that you have some kind of like predator hatred, or like some kind of what's the word? Prejudice. Yeah, predator prejudice, which also alliteration. So we stan. I like this idea that
to make judgment about them.
Quicker to make judgment, but also like they're a button. They push your buttons, just their presence. So that's a flaw that can be tagged in.
It's gonna be interesting, because like, especially if she's supposed to do something, and then just like a creature rolls up, like an owl, and she's just like,
okay, plan out the window. Plan B, kill the owl. Like, yeah.
Well, I feel that's interesting for me as a player, because that is a flaw that I'm gonna be, like, me as a player, I'm going to be fighting with that. As in I'm just like, no, Grear, don't do it. But Grear's like, I'm gonna do it.
This is another aspect of Adventures on a Dime that I really like. I wanted to introduce this idea of role-playing, of flaws and traits, and being excited by the conflicts between your own actions as a person, say like Brian or Ver, and then your actions as a character, and enjoying the chaos that comes out of that.
Yeah, I feel this flaw is really, like, I'm me myself as a player, I maybe that didn't come across much from Balthazar, but generally I'm quite cautious. Like, I like taking premeditative planned actions to make sure that everything goes well. And this kind of flaw is absolutely gonna just be a wrench in those plans. But I'm already excited of just being like, well, Grear has to fight. she catch these hands, fox.
Also, very slight side note, I just got a text from my publisher saying that a delivery of maybe 1,000 books for my Kickstarter might be happening today.
Oh,
we have no confirmation from the printer if they're coming. So if I get a buzz and then I have to really quickly leave the stream, we might go on break for 15 minutes and then come back as I haul all of the books into my flat.
Woof. Yeah. Understandable.
Though also they might not arrive until like 9 o'clock in the evening, so who knows?
Yeah, it's one of those. Maybe sometime today, maybe
Yeah,
not.
I
And you're
wish
just
I
on this
wish I'd been
constant war.
told that maybe they'd be coming today. Otherwise, I would have like planned something. But yeah,
Yep. Yeah, well, we'll deal with that as it comes then.
yes,
But yeah, we have that's the journeyman Tanner filled out, and she has a third job now. Is that going
yes.
to be the operative?
It could be operative or it could be master tanner. I like
I don't think
operative.
there's yeah, because I don't think there's more I can do in master. Like I feel the journeyman fulfills like these two slots of 10 are
Yeah,
kind of like between the two of them they have everything I kind of need, so
yeah.
I'm gonna write in Tusk Legion operative. um Also, oh god, I really quickly have to shout out an amazing comment that my friend Blair made on my picture of
Mm-hmm.
Grear, which was oh, did I? Oh goodness. Because I wrote that she's an operative of the Tusk Legion,
Mm-hmm.
and my friend surmised that as she's a member of a special Tusk force.
Oh god, I love it. It's going in.
In
It's
any
going
case,
in.
Tusk Legion operative. So after her experiences as a tanner, Greer made her way to working alongside the Tusk Legion, which Brian, do you want to explain a little bit of what, like,
I'll
in the most
explain what
general
you
terms?
know about the
Okay,
Tusk
yeah,
Legion.
because like Balthazar, this is something that Balthazar and Pipistrel are also learning as part of the world. So
Mm.
I don't know how much I know.
We're going to be
Um,
creating some wonderful dramatic irony
well,
between
we'll
the
see,
main
we'll see, we'll
story
see.
and the interlude. But yes, you are an operative for the Tusk Legion. The past 2 years in the Bristly Woods, which is the place where the story is set, boars have been raiding into the woods, destroying the villages and towns of beasts, and have been causing all manner of harm. They are ruthless, aggressive, bloodthirsty, and in the way of boars, they eat anything that's in their path. They've devastated fields and they've destroyed lives. The Tusk Legion is one of several forces of beasts, coalitions, so to speak, that have come together to push them back, and ultimately the Tusk Legion played a major role in routing the boars and making sure that they didn't return to the Bristly Woods. As an operative of the Tusk Legion, you know how important the Legion has been in the south and west of the Bristly Woods in doing this role. You know that because you're an operative, you know that the Legion is led by
Do you want
a figure that they call
Yeah.
White Flank. You've never met White Flank.
Mm-hmm.
You know that White Flank sends dove messengers to the leaders of various divisions and forces, but you've never met White Flank. You only know that their commands come through Dove, or by Dove, and you know that the Tusk Legion has camps and bases spread out throughout the woods. Because this is what we discussed. So,
Because
go
Greer
ahead.
has been kind of working for them. Like she's part of the Tusk Legion, but she's not like a foot soldier. She's a little bit like the
Mercenary.
operative. Yeah, she's a mercenary, but she does align herself with their cause and ideology. She does consider herself like a member of the Tusk Legion, but in terms of actual standing, due to the part of her past job, and also just the way that her skills are utilized, she's not really part of the hierarchy, so to say, which has its perks and has its downsides. But one of the things that she has been doing is she has been mentoring the Tusk Legion, like, I guess, foot soldier. I'm not sure what they're called, but basically the kind of base fighters, how to fight larger creatures, as being a tanner that targeted predators specifically, or behemoths, as they are more commonly known in this world. So larger creatures. I guess this can also be kind of explained that the beasts would be generally something we would call like people, So you have mice, squirrels, up to I think about badger and otter-sized creatures or beasts.
Yeah.
They have their
Well,
towns and
I would say the beasts, yeah, they go up to like badgers, otters, and then they start to transition into the larger beasts start to become that behemoth level. There's no like, there's a cutoff where like, this is a behemoth and this isn't a behemoth.
is it pronounced behemoth or
I think
behemoth?
so. Or behemoth? I don't know.
Okay.
I honestly don't know.
I'm going to be saying behemoth and hope that nobody's hurt by me saying that.
So for behemoths, I'm not.
Like,
anyway,
call them what works for you, and I'll call
Yeah.
it. It's tomato kind of terrain as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. So owls are like, they start to straddle that border because there are some owls that are smaller and there are some owls that are larger. Deer are definitely behemoths. If you consider the scale of like mice and rats and voles as like the base of like, they're the smaller end, and then like badgers are the larger end of like beasts, behemoths are like deer, bears, wolves, creatures that are so magnificent in size that they are an entire other world to
Like, yeah,
the little
you
folk.
can kind of consider them as almost the kind of most common line of comparison we have is in fantasy settings, something like D&D. You have all your humans and elves and stuff, and then you have dragons, where they're very powerful. They're physically a lot more powerful than your average person, and they kind of straddle this line of being basically like almost like demigods, because they're just that strong. Like if they wanted to, they could really mess up your day, your life, your livelihood.
This is why the
but
Boar
they're
War
not
is so
intelligent. That like you can speak. They're not just enormous creatures. They have their intelligence and sapience, but the things that are important to them and their worldviews are vastly different than that of an average person. So in this world, these kind of large creatures, which usually are, I guess you have like deer, which aren't predators, but a lot of the larger creatures that do occupy these areas, foxes, wolves, bears, are predators, and there is a very natural state of balance between the small numerous beasts, and the large predatory behemoths. But like it is what it is, but maybe not everyone's happy with it. And then, Brian, you were saying boars.
Well, the reason why the Boar War is so significant, nothing like this has ever happened in the Bristly Woods before. An entire horde, hundreds of behemoths attacking and ravaging the countryside. It's just devastating, especially over 2 years.
Because the boars don't have a ton of natural predators in a lot of the creatures that are present in the Bristly Woods. And boars don't give a damn.
They're big, they've got tusks, they eat anything, they've got thick skin. Yeah.
They are a big menace that, they just come in and they're like, well, I'm gonna do whatever I like. And they significantly uprooted, literally, the lives of many creatures in the Bristly Woods. And the Tusk Legion, the name kind of indicative a little bit of their focus, was one of the many forces that stood against them.
So, bringing it back to the Legion operative, I feel like what drew Grear to the Tusk Legion is the general direction of the Legion, which is fight the boars and then fight all predators. As a meadow hare, as a larger beast, because hares are quite large, but still prey to a lot of different animals out there. This idea of fighting back and of ending this vicious social hierarchy of predator and prey is something that has been quite attractive for Grear. This is something that we discussed. If you want to rephrase it in your own words, go ahead.
No, I think that pretty much sums it up.
So to figure out...
Because I guess there's that like perfect storm of her particular job being what it is. And it's not very common for hares to be tanners as well. but she, kind of given what she does and the foes she's been up against, the vision of the Tusk Legion aligns with the things that she would like. And kind of her specialty as well, because given that she would usually hunt larger predators, her skills are definitely something that the Tusk Legion can use. And it kind of works for both sides.
So, what sort of missions did Grear go on for the Tusk Legion?
Oh, I have not really thought of that. But I do believe that she would probably be taking care of managing kind of particular strikes, because she can't take care of if we're talking about like war specifically during the Boer Wars, she can't root large groups of them. But if there is one that is maybe has been separated from whether due to routing or because it's just maybe a curmudgeonly boar that does not play with others, she'd probably be in charge of kind of taking those creatures down, because with her knowledge of following the lines, she'd be able to cripple or incapacitate a creature like that for other creatures to take it down. So I believe she was like a operative for Guerrilla. I'm not sure how you pronounce
Gorilla.
that.
Like the animal, but spelled differently.
All right.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that she would have been doing.
I think maybe moving silently would be a skill, sort of that stealth and sneaking.
Yeah. Which is kind of very the irony of a hare being the one that stalks.
Oh, I like that story. So stalking, I like the word of it, but also it has bad connotations.
Well, it could be stalking prey.
Stalking prey.
Because that's specifically just
stalking targets. I like the idea of like the predator has become
maybe prey. Stalking your mark. Stalking targets, I think, is good.
Yeah. No, I like stalking marks better.
Yeah. Alrighty. And I guess the third one could be the mentoring that we had discussed. I think that if she had been, especially if she had been, or maybe commanding, if she was, well, actually,
instructing.
You know what? Instructing, yes, because I do feel, I think it would be, I would like her to have that strength on her side, because in moments of duress, like, she's the one who does give the instructions and commands.
Yeah.
And she does have a commanding presence despite the social taboo and being kind of sinister, that I feel it would kind of strike in obedience in those around her that maybe are not sure what to do. So I think so is it specifically instructing apprentices or instructing just in general?
Well, you could use it, because the thing about skills, essentially, to tag a skill in a challenge you're doing, you explain how one of your previous experiences would help give you advantage in the check. So you could say, I have experience of instructing apprentices, so I'm instead going to use that to instruct this disorganized rabble to form into ranks to fight this animal, for example.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be apprentices that you use the skill for. It's just where you got the skill. It's partly like the origin and the thing you were doing as part of the job. Gotcha.
Perfect.
So like instructing apprentices allows you to tag that in any way you feel is creative. As a mechanic, it's trying to get the player to be to consider their character's past and then how they can apply that in the future.
Excellent. Yeah. Because I definitely one of the reasons I was thinking taking care of equipment could play a role is if I feel it's more difficult to damage or destroy her knives because she takes such good care of them. It was stuff like that where she it's warranted that her equipment is a little bit more sturdy or stuff like that. Yeah, Tusk Legion operative. The trait that comes with it. I feel you're much better at these than I am.
I'm just gonna rephrase the skills in your apprentice. I'm gonna call it maintaining equipment, so that your equipment's always at a high standard, and then organizing objects in the sense of like you're good at keeping an organized workspace. As opposed to, say, organizing ranks, which would be like creatures and beasts and armies and stuff.
Yeah. Organizing. I think that's
so. Well, I think trait and flaw, they're actually very personal things for what you've been doing for the Legion. So what's something positive that Grear has taken away from being part of a larger force, as opposed to being a lone bounty hunter for most of her life?
Yeah.
What is something that she likes about being in the Legion?
Maybe a sense of purpose. Of being able to apply these skills in a way that is constructive. Like I mean, it is constructive, but it's a little grim. But here it is given a newfound purpose, which she didn't have a huge problem with it previously, but I think it's when she joined the Tusk Legion, she realized that it's nice to be able to lend her abilities in such a way to these people that actually need it and want it.
So grim determination?
Ooh, yeah, I like that. But I think it's only as far as, like, Tusk Legion things happen. Like, I don't feel I could tag that for...
So, for example, unflinching would be you see something horrible, but you're able to, like, suppress, like, a gut reaction and keep on with your job. Grim determination is you're facing very, very bad odds, but you know what you need to do and you're going to do it anyway.
Yeah, like the...
So, like, they're different aspects. They're not, like, words for the same thing.
Yeah. And the flaw... maybe something like seeing the creatures, like, a kind of... Seeing those who don't necessarily... Who are just like, well, we don't... Like, the way that things are or have been up until now are fine. Like, the world is what it is. Maybe something to do with that. Like, not disillusionment. But something along those lines. Like...
Maybe like a contempt for complacency.
Yeah. Some manner of conceit is present. Yeah, I think that's a good way of...
Do you want contempt or conceit?
Let me double check the meanings of those words.
I think they're synonyms. Like, they're pretty close.
I think conceit is more like to do with feeling pride. Contempt is more like you're projecting it on the other person, that they're disregard for something that should be considered. Yeah, because I think contempt is better because it's like she doesn't agree that you should be complacent.
Yeah. Contempt, the feeling that a person or a thing is worthless or beneath consideration. I think that if there is complacency, you go, ugh, really?
Yeah.
Like, you could do so much better.
Sheeple.
Like,
no, we're mice. The sheep are...
Actually, I think sheep are behemoths, so maybe...
Yeah. Well, because all of the, like, herbivore behemoths are seen as, like, just... because they're big, they take up space, they can damage things, but they can't offer anything, they can't fight, they're very selfish.
Yeah, and like, they themselves are also prey. So they can't pair up with other beasts because ultimately they don't offer anything. Yeah, like, they're prey, they're also running,
selfish. Yeah, they will always, like, choose to save themselves because, and so I guess actually maybe calling someone like sheep or something or is actually it has a similar meaning as it does in its negative connotation.
Wool-headed coward.
Oh yeah, woolheads. Yeah. I love it.
So, alongside jobs, characters can also have features. These are individual skills or traits or flaws that you get through your adventure or through your background that aren't a job. They just are individual. So this is to kind of represent specific characteristics that your adventurer might have. So in Beast Fables, as it says in the name, all of the characters are beasts, and so they have different skills to represent their advantages as a beast. So as a hare, you have powerful leaps as a skill, and you have keen ears as a skill. So you don't have to have these in a job to tag them, they're just separate things.
I do have actually a question, because could the powerful leaps be more like powerful legs? Or is it just for jumping? Because I feel like a kick from a hare could probably be. Because it's such a
Oh god, curse. I was about to write like thick thighs.
with two C's.
Oh god. Trying to sneak up on the ball, but anyway, no, I'm not going to finish that.
No!
Stop!
Animals do not have buttocks.
They do not clap.
Humans literally are like
The worst.
No, but like the proportionate size of the glutes in humans is like way, way, way bigger than any other creature.
Oh my
in the
god,
animal
could
kingdom.
the skill be Gluteus Maximus?
Well, that would be for humans. Yes, if you played as a human, it would be Gluteus Maximus. So you can sit on anything, and you're good at squats.
I'm just trying to find out.
Specific.
Powerful back legs. Or mighty back legs.
Mighty legs, I think, because the way that these creatures operate, like I do differentiate her having hands and legs. Because the beasts
I'm thinking of the anatomy of a hare. They box with their forepaws, and if you've seen like videos of them boxing, they're very quick and jabby. But like your back legs are very powerful, meaning you can jump, or if you were to like jack kick, like a donkey kick someone, it'd be much more powerful than just like a quick strike from your forepaws.
Yeah, and I imagine like for running as well. So I imagine when she needs to go somewhere fast, as in just get from point A to point B, she runs on all fours.
Well, when you're running all fours, the power is coming from your back legs, and your front legs are helping you balance. You don't just go ass over kettle.
Yeah. But I do also imagine that, like on the picture on the thumbnail, when she has her knives drawn, she goes into a bipedal stance, and then she's like able to jump or run or something. I don't know. We'll see.
So, something else that adventurers have is gear. Standard gear are things you can always carry, and then you have additionally carried items, which are things that fit in one or two hands, and pocket items, which are things that are smaller. You can carry a certain number of carried items, but you can always carry your standard gear, which are 4 different tools, a weapon, or kind of a set of weapons, a packed lunch, so some food or some kind of food source, money, some kind of currency, a light source, and then a bag to carry all of that in. So, what sort of tools does our good Grear have?
Well, she would have some manner of tanning tools. And I think it would be 2 slots, one for like the cutting and one for preserving. So all the necessary items for that. Tool 3.
I think for cutting it would be your knives, which is your weapon.
Yeah, but tool 3. I imagine she probably have, something out of like an Adventurer's Explorer kit, like a rope, which probably would be useful for tying down, or like tripping or something. So I would say she has a rope. And for tool 4,
Does she have anything that she has carved from an animal? Any tools made from her bounties?
See, I don't think she's the kind of like person who would brandish that. Like she wouldn't have a necklace of teeth or something gnarly.
I'm not thinking a trophy, I'm thinking like a tool. Like, does she have a saw made of, like, bone?
Straight up bone.
Yeah.
Um.
Does she have lockpicks made from like
I do want to say that as part of her, like the chemist gear, should probably have like a I know there's not vipers in or are there? Is there any poisonous snake in Scotland?
No, but you
Adder.
could have it imported, or you could make you could have like a poisonous substance that you've concocted from plants. Adders aren't poisonous. I don't think they are. Hang on.
I don't know. I feel there was a book somewhere where someone died from an adder. Oh, venomous snake. But I don't, because it's in. I know they're in Central Europe because we had them in my country.
So the adder is not significantly venomous. Okay, so I would say it is venomous, as in like it's not significant to a human, but we're titans. So yes, you can have adder venom.
Well, no, I was just thinking actually that as part of the chem set, it's more like she has an adder tooth to kind of like as a droplet kind of thing to. But sorry, but that was like a secondary thought to.
We'll put it in a carried item because you've had a long career, so you can have some extra carried items.
Okay, thanks. But when it comes to standard gear, whether we can show preserving sauce robe, because sharpening stone. To take care of her knives, they have to be very, very sharp all the time. Whetstone. There we go. Thank you. I forgot what it's called.
I'm just going to put vector next to Adder's Fang. Vector meaning it is a vector for things to be delivered through. So you can use it as a pipette, but you can also like... Oh, no, not Vector the adder. Could you imagine Vector's like, I want my tooth back, please?
Yeah.
No, it's a way to deliver things as well.
Yeah. I like that. For her packed lunch, she has some kind of vegetal salad. Or actually,
salad.
What's that?
Salad.
Salad. Actually, I mean, no, because she's on the probably something like oat cakes or something. You know, she's traveling quite a bit. Then something that she can.
Oat cakes with like dried fruit in.
Yeah, lovely. And it is summer, so there's probably a lot of nice fruit to go in there. I don't know what her money is.
We don't have currency in Beast Fables.
Yeah. Well, we did say that sometimes grain can be used because it's like because it's like a trade item because it's basically a food, but it's so universal. But
actually, I'm gonna give you 5. I made a note of this. I'm gonna give you 5 tusks. These aren't actual boar tusks. They are slices from a boar's tusk.
Oh.
And they are traded in at the arms and armament.
Gotcha.
They are a proto-currency for the Legion.
Gotcha. All right. Fantastic. I like that. She has 5 tusks. Her light source. I imagine she probably like doesn't use light source. Like she doesn't, because it gives away where you are. But she actually probably like a hooded lantern or something that she can easily conceal.
Hooded lantern's fine. I would say, for example, with Pipistrel's character, I've put echolocation instead of a light source because specifically for bats, Pipistrel is a bat. She would not use a light source. She would use her echolocation to sort of see in dark spaces. Yeah. So that's something specific. But otherwise, unless it's something really specific to that beast, I'm not giving a lot of beasts low light vision. Cat's eyes. So like a cat would have cat's eyes. They can see in almost complete darkness, so they wouldn't have a light source. But yeah.
Yeah, no worries at all. Understandable.
And then just for aesthetic, how is all of this carried?
I think that she has how would you describe this? There's this very specific setup that I'm thinking of. It's like if you'd have a very long piece of cloth that you slot things in and then you roll it up.
Oh, like an art, like a. So I'm thinking of a bandolier is like that, but it goes over the shoulder and it's like got pouches on and it's sort of like a sash. But you're thinking more like an artist's roll.
Yeah.
Like a pencil roll.
Where because she mostly carries like her tools, and like it's probably bound together with the rope to kind of keep it rolled up. And
I'm gonna move the character to the side. I'm feeling it looks something like this. So you've got like it rolls out and the tools slot into it, and then it rolls up into sort of like a tube that then has the rope around it, and it's like a little messenger bag.
Well, yeah, actually, the way that I imagine is when we have her kind of from the back. She has her ears here, because she has like weird proportions. And she has her kind of belt, and then she has her legs. Yeah, sure. Here's her little bunny tail. It's just kind of on the back here. So that she can very free, like if she had it over her shoulder, if she were running, it would kind of get underhand. So it's on the back. So when
and then she has like the rope around her waist, almost like a belt.
Yeah. So like it can, because she has a belt, but it can be like fastened. There's some manner of fancy knots that can fasten it together. So when she's going about, I don't know why I made her so hunched back, but whatever. She's a big, bulky power chest. Knife. I like the gotta go. I didn't notice you wrote gotta go knife. Gotta go knife. But yeah, Sonic. That's kind of how it's carried. So it doesn't get in the way that much. Yeah, I'm gonna delete this now. So it's
my god! Oh wow! Sorry, I just checked the YouTube comments. Someone's written, "Thick thighs take lives." Thank you. I love it.
A rabbit, so I understand their thighs would be. Well, actually, I was looking earlier at just references of like how many toes they have because I wasn't sure, and there's just like a few photos, just like very charming photos of rabbits like cleaning their foot or something, and their feet are so big when they splay them out, like all 4 fingers, and man, it's intense. So I imagine you need some powerful upper legs to propel those big old feet.
Would it be weird to say like a leather case?
Yeah, that's fine. Like we know what it is.
I feel like because so few creatures know what leather is, they don't understand what the material is, but it's the best thing to keep everything safe. It's like you've waterproofed it as well.
Yeah.
Maybe all tanners have these. It's like their sign of being a journeyman is that they have this leather case.
I like it.
To show that they know, like it's their proof that they know how to do what is required of a tanner. In every sense.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then, because I see you already added her tanner's knife as her standard gear. And those, I haven't, so I was thinking about them, and they're either, actually, no, they're probably, I didn't draw it on her design, but they're probably on the sides of each leg. So they're very quick and easy to kind of draw. But once again, don't get in the way, so they're not like on her hip, because then they'd kind of get in the way of running. They're on her sides, and they do just look like daggers until she takes them out, and then they kind of have that stoutness of a tanning knife, or a, what is it called? I forget. There's another name I used for them some time ago, but I forget. Any case, she has the carried item of an adder's fang as a vector. I can't really think of anything else right now. She probably has, apart from the 5 tusks, do the Tusk Legion operatives have some kind of marker, like Pipistrel's
Badge of the
messenger?
Legion. This, it's it's carved again from boar tusk. It's more 3D, so it's like a carved badge or brooch that has been painted or gilt with maybe copper or something like that. So it's like ivory and copper.
Very
And it immediately marks you as higher up in the Legion's hierarchy. I think maybe like the commanders, because they're led by White Flank, maybe they have like brooches that are white. So and they're more intricate like the higher are in rank you are, but this sort of like ivory and copper is a symbol that you're part of the Legion and you're allowed to go where you want. You're not to be stopped, you're not to be questioned.
Heck yeah. Can't wait to flash that.
I'm going to put it in your pocket items because it's not large enough to be in your tool pouch, so to speak.
Okay.
And
she probably... Yeah, it's probably somewhere on the, like, she kind of wears it almost like a charm somewhere on the back of her belt, just because if it's 3D, it won't really wrap up as nicely. So it's probably, kind of
when I say 3D, I mean like it's a brooch with a relief, so it's something you could easily just put into like your, like take out of, like have on a necklace or take out of your coat or something like to show, like a police badge, if that makes sense.
Yeah, actually, gotcha, yeah.
It's not like a 3D object.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna grab some water. I'll be 2 seconds. I'll be back, and then we'll start the adventure.
Okay. Oh, while Brian's away, I can quickly do what I was supposed to do in my intro, which is preemptively apologize for Grear's voice, much like Balthazar.
So I definitely think this is going to be a two-parter.
Yes.
Especially as I am anxiously, now very tense about these books.
Yeah,
when they'll be arriving. Oh,
yeah, but that's always a level of stress that you don't need in your day-to-day life, especially if you're doing something or you want to run an errand. You want to go out and get some groceries and you just get a message like, a package will come today. We're not telling you when. So just put everything on hold because you might miss it.
Well, side note about packages. I love it when they're like, we'll let you know by about 2 o'clock, which means at 2 o'clock they email you. So I always know it's not coming before 2. And then they give you an hour time slot, and they're always within that hour time slot, at least in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
So I'm always oh, thank God. I know that it's coming at 6 or 7, so I can go and get milk or something and then come back.
Yeah, I think it depends on the carrier, or what kind of package it is.
I will say, Holdall in Edinburgh, never.
Oh, really? I use their services for one regular delivery that I get, and I actually like it.
Maybe in the Glasgow on the west coast they're okay, but in Edinburgh the driver's always late, never tells me what's happening. It's just anyway.
Oh, well, maybe it's just the person who happens to take care of your area is a little disorganized. Don't know. In any case.
Who knows?
Yeah. Well, hopefully the package won't come during our show.
So, let's start the adventure. It is, we'll say mid-morning. You have been camped outside of Holdall for maybe a day now. It's 4 weeks after you were able to confirm that the Boars were entirely routed, and that the Tusk Legion's initial mission was successful. You have been on several missions, Grear, exploring the nearby forests and escorting groups of stitchers and construction workers to villages where they can make sure that the local populace is okay, helping find lost refugees in the woods, and bringing them back to civilization so that they can start to rebuild from the ashes of their previous lives. You have set up a camp, I say you, the Tusk Legion has set up a camp near the edge of Holdall, and will be looking around for boars in the local area. It is mid-morning. You've slept a little later than normal because you were up all night before trying to track some boars that may be stragglers on from the recent war, but you weren't successful. You didn't find anything. What sort of where are you staying? What are your living conditions like in this camp?
Well, I don't really have like a sleeping bag or anything. I guess if she's part of this camp, maybe she has some kind of tent or something that is just for her use. It's probably fairly modest, just very practical. She was able to kind of obtain it on account of her status. She's helping out in this area, so whatever kind of quartermaster is here just kind of provided her with what she needed to sleep. I imagine she is actually set up a little ways away from everyone else. On account of she has been with the Tusk Legion for, I don't think she was with them since the beginning. She's been with them for long enough to kind of entrench herself in their ongoings. But because of her very solitary lifestyle, there's still a part of her that is a little, just because of her keen hearing and the lifestyle that she's used to, large amounts of beasts at once are something that maybe she doesn't engage with if she can. So she's a little ways.
I think maybe Grear's an extremely light sleeper, so you're very sensitive to like ambush and attack or like movements in a target if you've dozed off. So sleeping near lots of other beasts is actually very difficult for you. So you're a bit farther away from the main camp.
And that's for her. But I also imagine she's a little further away, also for others, because if she's traveling with this group, they aren't perhaps the people that she was specifically mentoring. They know who she is. They know that she's a tanner and a tracker, and she doesn't want to make anyone, I guess, uncomfortable or wary. She's in a place where both they can see her and she can see them. And I also imagine that she's kind of in a position where she can, if we're overseeing the town of Holdall, she would be in a kind of forefront place where she can also see the town. As just the habits of a tracker and kind of that innate vigilance dictating that she's usually set up in place in vantage points, essentially. And I feel that she's kind of still balancing a little bit of that taboo, how is it described? That social taboo while being part of a society right now among the Tusk Legion. So there's like these few things that she's juggling, and she's kind of found a middle ground.
I'm going to say you're in your tent. You know that it's morning. You have a good keen sense of time. And you awake. You can hear some rustling nearby, getting closer, and you're looking up at the dark red fabric of the standard issue Tusk Legion tent. Have you personalized the tent at all? This is your tent. It's like a standard tent, but have you changed or altered the tent at all?
No. I think she doesn't really have. As a person, she's kind of modest. She tries not, like, she has these symbols that denote her for what she is, but like she doesn't wear trophies. She doesn't collect trophies. I think this is probably part of trying to set others at ease. Like, she's not gonna put up goddamn like bird skull on the entrance of her tent, like, I'm a big old tanner. So actually, and because also of the lifestyle of being on the move, there's no real place that she like calls home, and she's not intent on making a place home. So these are all just transitional points, as is this tent in this moment. So the inside she keeps organized and clean. Like if she's up, she has kind of made, the bed, quote unquote, whether it's just straightened out a sleeping bag or some kind of blankets. She's kind of, I think she finds a peace in that meticulous kind of manual labor of cleaning and organizing. So her spaces around her are neat, just because I think that's like a kind of focal point of this is my space. Yeah. Is I'm taking care of it.
You can hear the crunching of dry grass under paw. Something is approaching at a very casual pace. Is walking over to the tent, your tent. And it kind of like crunch, 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 and then it kind of stops outside your tent, and then you hear something being put down. Do you do anything?
She was probably in the process of kind of organizing that role, kind of making sure all the tools are fine. So she's continuing doing that, and just like one of her ears perks up to listen. But she's not gonna call out, because if this person doesn't want to engage, she's not gonna like force them to.
The flap of your tent is partially pulled open, and a familiar face pokes his head in. Eli, who is a ferret with kind of dark rings and kind of a brown rippling shade to his fur, his long neck and head poke in, and you can see kind of just slightly covered by the rest of his kind of clothed, uniformed body. Kind of pokes his head and he goes, "Oh, hello, Eli. Glad you're up. I got your laundry here."
Did he call me Eli, or?
No, Eli pokes his head in. I'm kind of introduced. Sorry.
Yeah. You said hello, Eli.
No. I maybe said hello, Eli, but meant to say Eli says hello.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. So he put down the laundry, right? I think she.
Well, actually, he kind of seeing that you're up, kind of like flips the tent flap all the way open, so it's now lying on the outside, and you can see he's got a basket with some folded laundry in, and he's wearing metal-studded padded armor, and he's got the basket's actually mostly empty. The only uniform in there, or the only clothing, not uniform because you've got your own clothing, is one of your sets of kind of traveler's clothes that he kind of takes out.
Yeah, she because she's still organizing her tools, but she kind of turns her head a little bit to look at him with that red eye. I imagine she's looking at him with a scarred side of her face. And she just kind of nods her head and says, "Thank you. You can leave it there." And kind of just inclines with her head, like at the edge of the bed.
And he says, he doesn't flinch when you kind of turn your scarred eye towards him. And he says, "Mind if I trade?" And he kind of nods his head towards, say, some dirty laundry, like part of the tent that you've kind of left there. As he's kind of laying down the clean laundry where you motioned him to.
Yeah, she turns back to managing her tools, and says, "Well, I think it's a fair trade."
And he gives you a little wry smile and kind of picks up the clothing and then puts it into the basket. And he says, Commander Clay was asking about you and the others. And you know when he says others, he means the kind of... not stitchers, the kind of not tanners. Because they aren't tanners, you haven't taught them how to tan, but the animal hunters, the beast hunters that you've been training. Yeah, so Eli says, "Yeah, Commander Clay's been looking for you, and he doesn't seem too happy."
her ears slightly like I imagine her face is very unmoving, but her ears do a lot of twitching and turning, whether it's searching for intonation or just a version of hair emoting. She is going to start wrapping up her bundle, and basically say, well, if he's looking for me, I won't keep him waiting. And she's going to strap on her tools, secure the knives on the sides of her legs. And
this is a question.
Yes.
Do you have leather armor?
Because I draw her in just like a cool coat.
Yeah.
I suppose if she's, it would make sense for her to have leather armor if she's in this situation where they might be dealing with boars.
Hang on. I've got a vibe. It's leather plated. So she's got leather plates that are stitched inside the coat. So it's subtle. Because that's what she is. She doesn't wear trophies. So she has the benefits of like leather armor. But it's inside her plain clothing.
All right. I think the only thing... Because I kind of draw her with like just the coat's kind of open. So I guess there's just kind of a centerpiece that probably goes underneath. Or I guess you can just kind of close up the... like. There's a chest piece that goes underneath that she can strap on that she just closes the coat, because it would be like ever so slightly more restrictive than having the coat open, so kind of she can move her front paws with a lot more ease.
It's got like a protective... This is more like aesthetic than it was necessarily like the physical active thing. I was just thinking like, oh yeah, like Tanners have leather armor, but like if you do have some kind of like leather armor, it's sort of like it protects the vitals and it's non-restrictive and it's disguised inside your clothes, because that's sort of the Grear vibe.
Yeah. So I think that's a really good Grear vibe indeed. So yeah, she would start kind of fastening what she needs to be ready for whatever action is needed.
Yeah.
Actually, as kind of says to not keep him waiting, because Eli said that he's not happy. Do I remember that correctly?
Yeah.
So she's... because like if Eli's pretty casual with her, then I assume he's not scared of her. They kind of seem to have a good rapport. So she's going to say, what creature is Clay?
Clay is a frog, a particularly old one.
Oh, my heart! I love it. Well, she's gonna say he's angry. What riled him up?
Eli kind of rocks back on his back paws and then kind of pauses and thinks. Says, honestly, I know I haven't seen him this angry since last summer when when the boars came through. What was it, Meadowbank, and they just tore their whole place apart. I don't think it's boars, but I know it's not good.
She just kind of nods at this, like acknowledging that Eli's words. But I don't think she comments any further. Just once again on kind of her personality, like she's not gonna muse or say like, well, he's stupid to be mad or anything like that. Like, she just sort of nods. Yeah. I her, like, the way I kind of want to play her is like she doesn't assume or infer a whole lot unless it's predators, in which case extreme prejudice. But it's like, oh, if I can't get any more information, then like understood, affirmative. Actually.
So you nod, and there's sort of like a slight.
Yeah, sorry.
You nod, and there's a slight quiet. And then Eli kind of pokes his head back into your tent again as you're sort of like buckling on like the leather belt with the knives that you've got. And I think your knives would be like disguised by the roll that you have. The roll goes over them, but it doesn't obstruct you from taking them out, if that makes sense.
Well, I imagine they're on the sides of her legs. So they're
cool. That's cool.
But while they're in their sheaths, you can't really tell what kind of knife they are.
They just look like knives.
Yeah.
So you're putting your knives on, and you've kind of got your coat and everything, and you're starting to kind of buckle stuff on, and he kind of pokes his head and he goes, you've been with us a while. I got I got a needle and some thread. We could do something nice with this tent. Put some vines in here, or make it a bit homelier. I don't think we're going to be moving from this spot for a few weeks. And he's looking around the tent, and then he kind of looks at you and... Not expectantly, but just sort of almost a little awkwardly.
She just looks around the tent. Like, she doesn't really see a point in that. But she'll say, well, I can't say I've had any ideas for making this place home. But if you have time and thread and some ideas, you can come around sometime. We'll see what we can come up with.
And he gives you that same sort of like little smirk, and he says, I'll go ask Merrywing. I think they got a good idea. They see all sorts of plants. Plus, I mean, it might keep out the light, or I don't know, it'd be nice. And he kind of picks up the dirty laundry in the tent and then kind of puts it in his basket. He says, well, have a nice day, and I'll see you at camp tonight. As he's kind of starting to kind of back away and walk off.
She nods and says, I'll see you when I see you.
And he kind of starts to walk off, as you can tell, back towards the main camp. And he's whistling, but I can't whistle, so I'm not gonna. So you've got, presumably, like your fresh, clean clothes on. You've got everything ready. What would you like to do? Would you like to go to the main camp and try and find Clay, or would you like to try and do something else before you see Clay?
Well, she has been, due to her nature, she's been, she's ready for action in terms of she's checked her things. Her knives are probably, I assume, are sharpened, unless she needs to tend to any equipment.
I feel like you would have done all of your tending before you went to bed, so if you needed to wake and go, you'd be ready.
Yeah. I think she just kind of, as she's getting out of the tent, she just kind of glances around again, kind of thinking about what Eli said about putting in some vines or things. And I think she just kind of, like, looks at this tent. It is serviceable for what it is, and thinking about decorating it, she just kind of closes her eyes and like shakes her head, but in like she doesn't, because the nature of her face is like she doesn't like smile just because rabbits have a funny face. But it's just kind of that good natured thing of just like, well, I don't understand why he wants to do it, but if it'll make him happy, sure.
I think rabbits twitch their noses a lot.
Yeah. So her little nose flares up a little bit in the equivalent of like a Yeah, just kind of like an amused smile of like, she thinks it's a little silly to decorate here. This isn't home, but she also doesn't really have home. But sure, if you'd like to, I guess we can put some vines there. And she's gonna step out to try and find Clay.
Clay's tent is like with most camp layouts, it's in the very center. And it's adjacent to the meeting tent, which is much larger, and it's where all of the meetings, the briefings, and the maps are stored. So you stride through the mid-morning camp. There are some soldiers that are cooking, some are organizing. Some of them are like preparing equipment, some of them are cleaning, like sweeping dust out of their tent. You notice that some of the tents have got, as they had before, they're not necessarily new, but you recognize the familiar patterns of, some of them have patches stitched into them, some of them have like, sort of like quilting. They've got like previous battles, like histories sewn into them. All of the tents are a standard like dark red that's dyed from a local berry, but they have modifications that make them their own, with flaxen thread and very occasionally with small patches of colour that they could salvage or dye themselves. And they're very handmade. They're not by any standard beautiful, but you know each of the stories.
The handmadeness of them. They're charming.
Yeah. You see one of the soldiers oiling the wheels on their wheelchair, and another is actually stitching into his tent as he's going. And he kind of looks up and gives you a little nod. Not many of the soldiers here, because they know you, tend to stare, so you don't feel the sort of the hackles rise and the attention on you. But you don't you don't slow your stride either to bask in it. You move quickly and directly, because this is the vibe I get of Grear, to Clay's tent, and you poke your head in. No one's there, but it's laid out almost as neatly as yours, with larger chests of things and tables and things. But you can hear the kind of the croaky grumbling of Clay next door in the meeting tent, and so you swerve round. This tent is not dyed red. It was originally just a plain linen, but it's now very muddy and brown at the bottom and more yellow and sun bleached at the top. You're outside the tent. Maybe it's 4 or 5 strides wide, enough to hold maybe 10 or 15 creatures comfortably, with chairs inside. You're outside the tent. What would you like to do?
She just looks at this mottled tent, and just kind of like says / thinks to herself, like, well, it seems Eli's thread might be of more use here. And she, unless it's like obvious that she has keen hearing. So as she approaches, basically she doesn't want to stride in if Clay is like, this secret meeting, nobody can know what's happening here. Yeah. She's not nosy, she just wants to know if she won't, this is an appropriate moment to walk in.
Okay. I'd say make a cunning roll, but you have advantage because you're tagging your keen ears.
Alrighty. Let's give it a go. Oh, I won't even roll a second time, because that's
you could roll a second time and get 2 8s, and then fail later due to fate.
Oh, baby!
Ooh, you actually got 2 8s!
Yep.
So you rolled the maximum on your die, which is an 8 for a d8, twice, so you get 2 critical successes. You do better than expected. The narrator describes how things go in your favor.
It doesn't matter that I rolled it twice, but...
I mean, for me it does.
The odds are very delightful.
That's nice. So, you can hear Clay croaking. I haven't spoken as a frog yet, so I feel it's very low and it's very grumbly. Clay's grumbling around. He goes, oh, I can't be bothered with these damn beasts anymore. And we get here and they're... He seems to be grumbling to someone. It's probably Sibilance, who is a fox, who is Clay's second in command.
A fox?
Oh, not a fox. Sorry. Yes, that you were right to be very shocked by that. No, I don't mean a fox.
That is her knives.
No, it's a... Hang on. Words.
You really got me there. That's a twist.
I'm gonna say maybe like a badger. I hadn't really decided who. No, a pine marten. Pine marten is sort of like similar to a mink or a... Yeah. A pine marten.
I know of pine martens. They're very cute creatures.
Yes. Sibilance is a pine marten, and she is Clay's right hand, but she only ever responds if asked a question. She's very
passive?
Not passive. She has a very serious air to her.
Ah. Gotcha.
So she doesn't ever say unnecessary words, but he's grumbling at someone, and he's grumbling in a very personal way. He seems to be ranting about how dumb beasts are, and how after everything that's been done for them, you leave them for 2 seconds, and they kill each other, and they're dumb. And why is a Legion even here? Because clearly the boars should just be killing us all because we're not worth it. You feel it's very it's angry ranting. It's not serious prose. If that
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah. Very hyperbolic.
Yeah.
Grear will, like, her ears, she's not like pipistrilling this. No offense.
Pipistrelle's curious.
Yeah, she's curious.
Yeah.
She kind of sorry, Atlanta, if you're listening. She kind of realizes that, okay, well, he's having a moment, but he's still searching for me. So she will take just a couple steps back, and then as she moves forward, she's gonna move louder, which is uncharacteristic for her. She's very, I imagine, fleet of foot or sleight of foot.
I would say uncharacteristic. I say she's deciding to let him know that she's approaching.
Essentially, yes, yeah. And is going to, like, clear her throat. What do? You don't knock on the side of a tent. But she might just say, kind of approach louder and say, is it Commander Clay? Is that his
Commander Clay? Now, normally in the Legion, when there's a large amount of people in like a camp, there would be guards at significant tents so that you would get announced, but the force here is small enough that they're either on patrol or resting, so there's no guards at this tent. So you could like cough or like announce yourself, but also you have a personal enough relationship with Commander Clay that you could just open the tent flap and walk in, especially with like your special badge.
Okay. In that case, she's just gonna make it obvious that like someone's approaching, and then open the tent and see presumably Commander Clay, as I have been hearing him, and say, Commander Clay, I hear you've been looking for me.
He doesn't actually acknowledge you. He continues ranting. He's facing away from you. He's kind of like a large, round frog, but more baggy with age than necessarily like bulky with muscle. And he is like pointing and slapping on the table with his hand. And you say Commander Clay in your kind of quiet hair's voice. And then it's not until Sibilance, it is Sibilance, kind of leans slightly over and just says, Commander Clay, that Clay actually looks up at Sibilance, does a sort of like slight squat. It's not like he couldn't cock his head, but instead his head kind of goes a little into his body, which is the equivalent of like a frog kind of, turning the head. And he goes, and he kind of turns around and he goes, oh, yes, it's you. Come in. And he kind of walks around the table and gestures at one of the chairs that are kind of at the edge of the tent, dragging one forward for himself. And he kind of plops him down on this sort of like frog-sized chair that's a bit higher up, so he's at an equal level as someone bigger who's seated.
Yeah, as I do believe Grear would fulfill such a size difference. She is going to walk up to that chair and sit down as comfortably as she can. And just kind of, just look at him expectantly, hearing what he has to say.
So he says, I need you to look at these maps here. And I'm going to scroll down to show the people at home the maps. There are a collection of maps that have been pinned to the table. Some of them are made by mappers in the Tusk Legion. Some of them have been purchased from the Guild of Mappers. And they're generally laid out to show the surrounding area you're in. You are in the bottom left map near Holdall, marked with an X for T19, Tusk 19, the camp that you are in, the 19th Division. You recognize Broken Tusk to the east, the capital, central area for the Tusk Legion where the forces are held, and where, presumably, White Flank and the rest of the command are. And you can see other cities, north. You can see Rose Hill. In orange ink, you recognize the markings of boars and where they've been placed. And in red, you see markings of where the Legion are, and various notes and curious things. I don't think I'm going to do the voice because it's actually a bit too low for me. But essentially, Commander Clay kind of lets out a huff, and he gives you, like, one eye squinting, gives you a long, hard look before he says, "What do you know about Holdall?"
What do I know about Holdall?
You said you grew up in Rosehill, didn't you?
Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
So you kind of repeat what you'd know, which is quite basic. It's a capital city, well, not a capital, but it's a very large city built into a tree. Many of the buildings are in the branches above. There are some forges there as well, run by badgers and moles. And it seems to be quite I think the term they use is metropolitan. A lot of different beasts there. It's not a place that you've ever gone to. You've mostly roamed the northern parts of the Bristly Woods. And
so she would kind of repeat that.
Yeah.
I feel it would be like a very curt kind of militaristic, metropolitan town, built mostly into the trees. There's a few forges, a direct route from Spinner's Cot, stuff like that.
Yeah. There's another pause, and then Commander Clay says, "About 2 weeks ago, we sent over a delegation." I say we. The Tusk Legion sent over a delegation to talk about joining whatever it is that White Flank's organising. Some kind of mega guild. I'm not too sure. And we hadn't heard much back. The delegation didn't return. And, well, we know that talks and things like this can take some time. It took some 3 weeks to negotiate with Middle Meadows for us to guard them while they built their stuff back up. You know, you were there. But, well, we're a bit curious, and we've seen boar sightings in the area as well. That's why we're here. But, well, a scout's report that Holdall isn't doing well. There's riots in the city. And he kind of pauses hear what... Yeah. Go ahead.
From where my tent is, have I seen anything like smoke or...
You haven't seen any smoke. You haven't smelled anything either. I don't think there's noises loud enough to ever travel that far. Because you're maybe like a mile or two away from Holdall. You can see it, but like...
Oh, okay. I thought we're like on a hill like above it or something.
You are, but like it's like it's distance. You can see it and you're on a hill looking down at it, but you're not necessarily like close enough that you can hear the general hub and bub is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Or you wouldn't expect to be able to hear it for regular noise.
Yeah. Well, she's been listening to him intently, and she's going to say, well, when were we supposed to hear back from our delegation?
Well, we were meant to have a word sent to us by Moon Messenger or Wing Warden by, well, 4 or 5 days ago back at Broken Tusk. When we came out in here, we were told to keep an eye out, but not to expect trouble. But now that scouts are saying that there's riots, we don't know what, but we see that there's apparently a lot of animals angry and moving about. They've stopped the elevator as well, and I don't know if you know, but there's a big elevator on the side of Holdall that goes up and down and ferries all sorts of traffic. And, well, if they've stopped the elevator, they've stopped trade. That's where all the chapter houses are. And that means something's going down. Well, I say we. And he kind of looks at Sibilance, who gives him a very curt nod. He says, I'd like you to go in and investigate and see what's happening.
She kind of considers this, and she says, well, it sounds like things might be pretty bad if you need a tanner to go in.
he nods at this and he says, yes. We don't want any violence. Discreet. We know that you're quite a quiet one. We don't think you'll be noticed. We don't want you going in on Legion colours. Just in case it will... He struggles for the word, and then Sibilance leans in and says, except I can't pronounce it, exasperate. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Expedite.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, expedite. We'll say expedite, because I can pronounce that. She kind of leans and says, Sir, expedite. And then Commander says, yes, expedite any ongoing conflicts. Go in looking like a regular hare and see what's going on. Now, I'd like you to make a cunning roll for me.
I can certainly do that. I presume if there was anything to tag, you would have told me that I can do that. So far, so good.
All's good. I'm going to say that you notice that there is the silhouette of a beast listening near the tent, projected by the sun. And they are not nearly as subtle as you were. The shadow, we'll say, is behind where Clay and Sibilance are, so they wouldn't be able to spot it.
Yeah. She is going, like, she turns her gaze at this shadow and kind of inclines with her head, like, pointing at it to them and says, and how confidential is this information that you're giving me now?
Clay leans and says, for you,
she nods her head at the shadow, indicating to them, like, hey, look over there. So how important is this? Sorry.
I think maybe that you have control of your ears, that you could point one of them. I think that'd be cool.
I think I think it's a little goofy. She's just like, point.
No, not like full on like animatronic, like pew! I think like lean it. Yeah, like you could twitch it. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so so just kind of twitch your ears in that direction. Yeah.
Yeah, in that direction. Not like ba-doing. No, not Cartoon Network. Yeah, but like you gesture with your ears in a subtle way, and then Commander Clay completely misses the motion, but you see Sibilance's head snap to the left, and she stalks off to the entrance and then round. Commander Clay says, for you, strictly confidential. Hasn't even noticed that Sibilance has walked off. And he's in the middle of saying, we don't want anyone to know about this right now in case it's nothing or in case it's something. And by the scruff of the neck, Sibilance walks in with a rather portly mole who is wearing a clean linen uniform, undyed, with a apron over the front that's a very dark colour. And with little spectacles on the bridge of their nose. You recognise this as Hiccup, who you've seen around the camp, but haven't really talked too much.
I just love every you give of each beast, my heart just grows thrice. I love all of them.
I'm actually really enjoying this.
I'm sorry. I just really had to voice my love. Yes.
We haven't had a chance to show off lots of beasts that the characters would know. But yeah, so Sibilance walks in with Hiccup by the scruff and then throws him down before the table. Not onto the table, but sort of like onto the ground, so he kind of falls to his knees. And he kind of goes, hi, Sybil. And Sibilance gives him a very stern look, and then returns back behind Commander Clay. And Clay goes, kind of looks over the table, because he's a bit short. He looks over the table and goes, Hiccup, I hadn't seen you arrived. What do you want? How is Grear reacting to all of this?
Well, I wanted to ask if when what is the name of the badger again?
Not badger. Pine marten. Sibilance.
Yeah. Sibilance. When Sibilance throws Hiccup down, do his little spectacles fly off?
No, because they've got like a string that keeps him on his face.
Okay.
He's got the old person glasses, loopy.
Well, she is just kind of because she's Grear is looking at Commander Clay, and then he turns his gaze at Hiccup, and she just very slowly looks at Hiccup with that leveled. I think at this point, maybe just the way that you mentioned that the shadow was behind Clay and Sibilance, so I assume light is coming in at her face. So in this moment, her eyes are particularly red with light as she kind of looks over at Hiccup, just seeing what he'll say.
Let's say you're in shade, you're in the shade of the tent, and you lean slightly to get a better look at Hiccup, and the light catches your eyes, and they just have this very dark blood sparkle to them.
Yeah, and do I know who Hiccup is? What do they do?
You know, not much actually. You've aside from a couple words at camp, this is the first time you've traveled with Hiccup. You're not quite sure who he is.
Apart from cute.
So Hiccup kind of stutters a little bit and kind of picks himself up and goes, I'm very sorry to be nosying where I'm not welcome, but I was walking past and I heard there's riots in Holdall, and he seems very anxious, and Sibilance's eyes narrow as if by acknowledging that he'd heard it, he'd made the situation worse. And Sibilance locks eyes with Commander Clay. They nod at each other, and then Sibilance goes to stand outside the tent, and you can see her shadow slowly making a circuit of the tent. She's now on guard. Mm-hmm. Commander Clay gives another one of his famed pauses. He looks Hiccup up and down. And unlike you, it really seems to shake Hiccup. You have a good relationship with Clay, but this stare he gives Hiccup seems to make him quake a little bit. And he says, yes, there's something happening in the city. Why, what's it matter to you? And Hiccup says, it's just that, I'm from the guild, the Stitchers, and it's where the library is, and I'd hoped that we could retrieve or copy some of the texts. That's why I asked the flank to send me out this way with you, and if there's a riot, that might be not so great. And Captain Clay looks down at the maps for a second and says, then to you, Grear, he says, Grear, do you know much of the Stitchers?
When Hiccup said that he's part of the guild of Stitchers, her ears would have kind of perked forward, her nose kind of flaring slightly, her whiskers turned, also, with this kind of, despite herself, a kind of inquisitiveness, or she had a reaction to it. And she continues looking at Hiccup with that leveled red gaze.
Yeah.
And she says, yes, I'm familiar with the Guild of Stitchers. As Tanners, we have some shared practices.
And Hiccup's little beady eyes kind of widen a little bit, and he kind of perks. He kind of stands a bit taller, and he says, yes, my colleagues are actually very interested in speaking with you. Maybe not right now, but, you know so much about the beast's bodies that I think we could really... Sorry?
She kind of interjects him when she says the beast's She says the lines.
The lines. And he goes, well, there's so much that we could... And Captain Clay cuts him off with a croak and says, "This is your meeting or mine? Well, now that you're here, stay and be quiet." And he goes, "Oh," and he kind of scuttles over to the side of the tent and sits in a chair that's too big for him, that's sized for maybe an otter. And he sort of just goes, "Oh," and he kind of is very small in this very big chair. And slowly and calmly, his gaze meets, not his gaze, but Commander Clay's gaze meets with yours again, Grear. And he says, "As I was saying, there's riots in the city. We need you to go in and hopefully find the diplomats, the emissaries that were sent in. Find out what's going on and report back."
She will nod at this and say, she takes in that information, kind of thinking a little bit. She says, how many were there? What beasts were they? The delegates.
The delegates. For a minute, Captain Clay is like, "I don't know who lives there," and he realizes you mean the delegates. And he goes, they were 2 rats. And he kind of he starts to scribble through his notes, and he finds, because he has their names.
Certainly.
He does. Yes. Brian, I have a massive document that goes in all directions that I scribble on.
Maybe Hazel and Walnut.
No, because the rats have specific names and they're really cute.
I'm sorry.
They have a naming tradition. This is the thing when you do world building, is you do all these really cool things and then you ignore it because you can't find the stupid name that you wrote. I will find it. I will find you and I will name you. Their names are... He goes, I got it. Their names are Quang and Shy. And he kind of passes you 2 slips, 2 cards of paper made from thicker bark that's been pressed and glued. They have 2... You know that there's one of these for each member of the Legion. When you officially join the Legion, a portrait is drawn of you by one of the artists at Broken Tusk, and then a record is kept of your size and physical distinctive looks.
Love it.
And they, Quyang, spelled Q-U-I apostrophe A-N-G, uses they, them pronouns, has brown fur with a white circle over one eye, the right eye.
Okay.
And specifically only has 1 tooth, the left tooth, and is a veteran from the first year of the Boer War.
Oh.
And then semi-retired, was relieved from frontline duty for more diplomatic work after receiving a very traumatic injury.
What was the injury?
It doesn't specify on the card, but you could ask Captain Clay.
She would have, yeah. She says, it says here he was, they were discharged after an injury. What was it?
Discharged, that's the word, yes. Captain Clay goes, well, it says for grievous injury, it was actually the death of his partner. Doesn't like to talk about it.
Him for Quang?
Oh, God, no, sorry, they. Yeah, sorry. This is because I'm making them up on the spot.
No, don't worry.
Yeah, of their partner.
Your partner. Grear just kind of nods. She asked in terms of, like, is there a limp? You know, something like that. Like, the kind of markers she'd look for bounties. So this is like, okay, I don't need this information. She just nods and is like, okay, that's not important.
Press X to skip. So you nod, And then you look at the other card, which is for Shy, spelled S-H-I-E. Shy is he, him. And has got grey and blonde striping down the majority of his body, with a single blonde left eyebrow.
Interesting.
Shy was originally from the Mappers Guild, and has a gold earring.
Lovely.
It's a loop. Also on the left ear.
Okay. Yeah, she's gonna take in this information. I understand she can't, like, take these report cards. She just, or these, like, data cards. She's just getting the info. Yeah, she's definitely getting into memory, in the way that very much the kind of bounty hunter.
Do you want to have a journal of marks?
Wait, you're asking?
Add that. Yeah, yeah. Because we could add that to your carried items, and you could note all of this down in a journal if you wanted.
I actually think she keeps it all in her mind. I think she doesn't note stuff down because that's potentially information that can be taken. Her practice is that she keeps everything in her mind, and I'm making these notes because God knows my memory isn't hers. But I think she's very much like very much committing things to memory rather than making notes of them.
So yes, we'll say that you've got, like, part of your organized mind and organized, like, trait is that you're really good at, like, just keeping all of these thoughts categorically perfect, but that's more aesthetic. But yeah, so you're kind of committing these to memory, and you're actually really good at memorizing all of these features as well, because you never want to make a mistake as a Tanner.
No, I feel the guild. Like, if someone makes a mistake, it's a one strike. Like, you're out. Because otherwise the guild, like, it would be so easy to.
It undermines the reputation of the guild.
So
it's actually a brand-worthy offense. You become a stray.
Yeah, absolutely. So because it's definitely part of the apprenticeship, like, to kind of teach you all of these things, and if you can't remember things as an apprentice, you're not going to be a journeyman because they won't give you those tools. So I feel that notion of being very meticulous and never making that mistake is important. The notion of having a very keen mind for these things is very important.
Yeah.
I think it's why it's advised that you don't keep journals, because that's information that you did not commit, and it can be fabricated or changed.
Yeah.
All the secrets, all the information is kept in your mind because that's where it's the safest.
I'm loving all of this world building. Yes. So you look at these cards, you memorize information. Are there any questions you want to ask about the two, or about the delegates?
Yes. She's gonna look at these cards, and as she's looking them over, committing their appearance to memory, she will say, who are they sent to speak with? Are there authorities in Holdall that they would have been contacting or staying with?
The Commander Clay pauses for a moment, kind of looking up and remembering, and he says, there was a crow, I believe, who we'd met on the fields, after one of the battles, by the name of Walnut, who claimed to know a great few guildmasters of the smaller variety in the city.
Wait, the crow said... Sorry, I might have missed it. The crow said that they know the guildmaster?
The crow said that they knew a great many of the guildmasters of smaller beasts in the city, and their name was Walnut.
Walnut, yeah. I think Grear's ear kind of, like, twitches in a very subtle hair, like, annoyance of, like... Because this isn't, like, she needs the full story. She says, so did they go contact this Walnut Crow, or are they using her as a liaison to these contacts?
I think it's liaison situation. These delegations are here just to begin negotiations, begin the conversation. They check in, and it can take time, especially for such a big place as Holdall. It's probably twice the size of Broken Tusk. It's just that we haven't heard back that's a bit concerning.
She nods and says, well, if it's been 4 or 5 days since you were supposed to hear from them. And she kind of like inclines her head, because she's already thinking about like tracking. She's thinking of worst case scenarios. She's thinking of finding bodies. She says, how long has this unrest been brewing in the city that you have heard of?
Our scouts. Well, we didn't have observers in Holdall. We've been keeping to our camps and mostly trying to, as you know, do work around the area, tracking and such. Our scouts flew over and said that there seemed to be unrest. There seemed to be large gatherings of beasts. Not a lot of working, and the elevator was unoperational. We don't know how long this has been going on for.
Well, when did they cite this for the first time?
That was this morning.
Her ear twitches with another, like, kind of annoyance. Dead end. Like, this is information that's insubstantial. She says, if the diplomats have not returned earlier, why was nobody sent earlier?
Can't tell you. Again, things take time. We assume this is us sending people now. It can take time for things to travel. There may have been no messengers. They may be on their way to Broken Tusk. We can't be sure. We're the only camp closest to Holdall right now. The others are T8 and T13, and they're as far away from Holdall as they are from Broken Tusk. It would be easier just to go straight there, to the main camp, that is.
She nods. This walnut, this... Wait, was it a crow? Or actually, let me double check my notes.
Crow.
It was a crow. This crow, does anybody know where she's stationed?
Said that she could be met at I think it was the Yellow Band Club. It's a meeting place for all sorts, on the middle reaches of the tree, inside the tree itself, but it has perches outside for winged folk.
She considers this and says, well, I've never been to Holdall. Do we have any maps of the interior of the city? Or do we have any members of this camp that have maybe come from there?
Commander Clay looks again up, sort of like checking a fact in his head. You know when people look up like,
Yeah.
And he says, I think there's a private red claw. And he kind of strains it out, and you hear from outside whisper, a kind of said quietly but pitched for you to hear, sibilant say, private red claw, sir, before continuing her circuit around the outside of the tent. And Commander Clay's like, yes, private red claw, camping in the north of the camp, staying with Marmlet and Marnie. Think he's currently rotated. He kind of shuffles through more papers. He says, currently they're on break. We'll be patrolling the camp at 11th hour before the noon.
She nods.
You should catch him.
Yeah, so north would be in the direction of Holdall as well, correct? Oh no, it's kind of west of us.
I mean, like, it's a short walk. It's like the camp isn't big. It's like a minute's walk, so it wouldn't matter. But yeah.
See, she nods, and because I imagine as she was asking these questions, she was looking over these cards of these two rats, kind of getting remembering as much as she can. She's gonna put them back on the table, neatly, like she does that like stack thing where she makes sure that they're perfectly aligned. Down. And she says, well, given the amount of time that has elapsed since we were supposed to meet these diplomats, I'm not sure how long it will take me, but I'll do what I can. And she kind of gives a curt nod at the commander. And as she's gonna get up to start leaving, is the commander or wonderful Hiccup doing or saying or getting up or anything?
So as you get up, it's customary to give like a little bow, not like a big gracious one, but like a tilt of the head. So you do that, you kind of signal that like, that's it, I'm gonna go do this. And as you get to the tent flap, Commander, well, there's a cough from Sibilance, and then Commander Clay goes, "Rah," before you go, and he kind of looks at you and then looks at Hiccup pointedly. He says, "This is to the Tusk, you understand? And you know that to the Tusk means that this is to be kept entirely secret, except to commanders and to those who are also in the meeting." And kind of Hiccup kind of goes, "Oh, yes, sir," and he kind of like burbles very quietly, looking very small and meek in his very big chair. I mean, I assume you just kind of give like a very Grear nod.
Yeah, Grear nod, yes, trademark. She understands that entirely. Discretion is part of her profession, so she understands this sentiment perfectly. But as they're kind of doing this, she'll actually incline like to Hiccup to like kind of follow her along. Because she'd like to have a word with her.
Yeah. So, out of character, don't worry, you will get to speak with Hiccup.
Okay.
I have a plan though for that. What do you would like to do as you leave the tent? What are you going to do next?
Oh, so I don't get to like if I incline to him, does he not?
So like as you're leaving the tent, he goes to follow, and then Captain Clay is like, "Actually, before you go anywhere, Hiccup, I want a word with you." And he's like, "Oh," and so we can't follow you right now.
Yeah.
I have a scene planned. Don't worry.
Yeah. Okay. All right. But Grear will just kind of tell Hiccup, or kind of turn to the commander, and say, "I'd be grateful if you can make the reprimand and breathe. I'd like to speak with Hiccup before I leave for Holdall." And give another one of those nods and.
So you give the nod. Hiccup, his shoulders like really slump. You could tell he was hoping not to get reprimanded, and now he's like, "Oh no, I am gonna get yelled at." And Commander Clay gives you a little satisfied smirk, and just a nod, and you leave.
Hey, look, Hiccup, snitches of stitchers get stitches.
Yes. The Snitcher. Coming to Netflix. Just Netflix. Anyway.
So she's going to try and go catch up with this Redclaw to try and get some information about Holdall. Mostly she wants to know where the Yellow Band Club is and where the chapter house of the Stitchers is.
So I'm going to scroll up because I'll be scribbling for you. You easily find Private Redclaw, who is a sparrow. And is a kind of a large, for a sparrow, quite a large brown bird. I'd say maybe he's as big as your head.
I don't think my head's that big.
Well, this thing is, like, for a sparrow, he's quite big. Your head isn't that big, but like most sparrows are small as birds go. But he's a bit bigger. Yeah. And you notice that he has his right leg is actually entirely tattooed with red ink, just a full block color all the way up.
Dang.
Into what otherwise would be quite small, thin, hard kind of tissue for a bird. And he is happily chirping away at some of the other privates in the camp. One of them is cooking like a thick, gruely porridge over a low campfire. Another is gently plucking on a small 5-string guitar.
I just really want to say in Grear's voice, like, those are some sick inks, man. No, she will, approach with that kind of purpose in her stride. Well, explains why his name is Redclaw. Because so he's private, right? That would be like the honorific Private Redclaw.
Like the lowest rank.
Yeah, kind of foot soldier. Sweet. She approaches. She's a little like, she's pretty big compared to, the average beast. So I imagine it's a little, not hulking, but this larger kind of figure approaching.
Well, you cast a tall shadow.
Yeah.
And I'd say as you stride with purpose towards them, you can hear them with your keen ears, like chirping and talking and generally messing around. And then as you approach, there's like a slight hush around you, as people aren't like staring, but they're like, oh, she was in the commander's tent, and now she's walking to, oh, Private Redclaw's in shit. And like the kind of gentle bantering, and like from around. And then as you approach, like Redclaw kind of looks at you with small beady black eyes, and then just stops talking. And maybe there's like there's another hair actually plucking away on a guitar, kind of plucking away. And you stand behind this other private who's plucking away and is kind of looking around like, why is no one talking?
Oh god, I'm sorry if you hear a plane outside. It's very loud.
It's actually a very big bird.
Yes. She. So then, in that moment, Grear speaks, looking straight. Like she's used to people going a little bit more hushed around when she comes in. She's gonna look at Private Redclaw and address him and say, "Private Redclaw, could I have a moment of your time?"
And as you say that, the guitar like nothing like there's not like string breaks, but like the rabbit, we'll say a rabbit, not a hare, smaller. The rabbit immediately kind of goes, oh, looks over the shoulder, and then with a big wide smile goes, oh, hello, and then back to Redwall goes, I'll leave you to it, and then sort of like shoulders hunched, guitar in both hands, just sort of like just walks off. The one with the porridge is very intent, looking at this very grey porridge.
Yeah.
Redclaw.
Interesting porridge.
Very interesting porridge. Redclaw chirps a little and goes, "Hi, how can I help you?"
So he doesn't make any, because he doesn't make any inclination of like, oh, let's step away or anything like that, right?
I think he's a bit too shocked.
Cowed. Okay.
Yeah.
She can't be like, oh, I'm going in for a super secret mission. Also, once again, I'm very sorry if there's any stuff picked up. There's literally just abandoned gosh dang kids outside of my window.
How dare the youth? Are you able to shut the window?
The window's closed. It's just that I live street side. They're right outside.
We'll just have to endure the children.
Yeah, they have walked on though, because they were.
They are our future, but damn, is that future dark?
No, they're just loud. They're bringing kids, and that's fine. They don't know that there's stuff recording right now.
I know. I live near a school. I love their little cries at, not cries, but like laughter at playtime and stuff like that.
These kids are like middle school.
Kids are great.
But
anyway, your moment with the bird.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking what she's gonna say. She will say, because she can't say like I'm going on a mission.
Yeah.
It's confidential. So she's going to say, oh, I know. She's going to use because people are going to see her leaving and stuff.
Yeah.
So she's going to say, sorry, now there's like a screeching kid.
I love it. It's
anyway,
so dumb.
She's
Just
going to say, Yeah, she's gonna say, Private Redclaw, I understand you are from Holdall?
And Redclaw relaxes a touch, steps off of, say, a log they were perched on, and kind of hops a bit forward and says, yes, my dad's dad were from Holdall. Why do you ask?
The Stitcher's chapter house was interested in speaking with me, and I'd like to know how to get there as soon as possible. Or the fastest route. I don't want to dally too long in the city. Do you know where I could find such a place?
The Stitcher's chapter house. Well, it would probably be in the... And he kind of starts to... He goes, well, it's a big place. Now, I'm used to most of the outer bits, seeing as... And he kind of gestures with his wings. He says, I'm a bit more mobile. And he starts to scratch in the ground with his red claw. This is what the tree looks like. So this is the upper bits here, and it's got a long, large... It's one of the largest trees in this area, actually. Large trunk. Inside the trunk, it's all hollowed out. Tree's been dead a long time. And there are little flats built into the building. There is a large circular staircase that goes all round the inside of the building. That's where most of the regular beasts live. Up here, there are the large branches of the tree, and they are filled with buildings, houses, businesses, all that nonsense, really. Each of the branches, they're called branches, so it might be Olive Branch, it might be Westwood Branch, it might be Sunrise Branch, and then that's the address, so to speak, for all the different houses they're in. Are you following me?
She nods.
Right, so that's where all the different bits and bobs are. One of the branches is Guild Branch, which is, as you can presume, where all the Guild chapter houses are, or most of them. Some of them are closer. For example, the All Beaters of a Guild house lower down in the old Badger Caves beneath the tree.
Yeah, she nods once again, but once again, her ear twitches in that this is not relevant information.
So that's I would presume, I wouldn't know personally. I think the Stitcher Guild might be on Guild Branch.
Well, if we're looking at this tree from the direction that you have drawn, would the Guild Branch be on the left side, the right side?
Well, I won't give you directions as Brian, but he would give you apt directions that once you are at this part of the tree, you would know how to get to Guild Branch.
Okay. That's what I needed.
So I'd write down, I have directions to Guild Branch.
Yeah. I have directions to that. Sweet. She will kind of nod, and then say, one of the folk there said if I don't find them at the Guild Branch, that I can meet them at the Yellow Band Club. Are you familiar with such a place?
Oh, yeah, sure. It's right in the middle of the tree. There's a little nook here. There's a platform out here for us winged folk to land in, and there's a bit of a balcony here on the inside as well. It's also the opposite side of the elevator. And he takes his foot and he scrubs out the little circular motion he did and says, on the opposite side of Holdall, there is the grand elevator. That's for the less vertically inclined beasts to quickly make their way up and down the city, or for cargo to get moved. It's operated by I think it's the Strong Arm Company right now. They bought it out from the other guild. Can't remember the name of it, but it's changed hands.
She nods and says, would she have known that the Strong Arms have a presence in Holdall?
No. You don't know much about Holdall. You just know that it's a place with lots of creatures. So you wouldn't... It's like I don't know which shops are in London because I don't live in it.
Gotcha.
Like I could guess.
What is the reputation of the Strong Arm
Guild?
Yeah,
well, the Strong Arm Trading Company. I'm just trying to find the entry I have for their guild, except I can't because I'm dyslexic.
They're kind of mercenary, right? Like they are fighters for hire.
Well, I assume for the sake of conversation that like Grear would ask this. Like I thought they were fighters, and then Redclaw would say, Earth, no. They're a group of badgers. They used to be all beaters, but now they've or maybe it was Landstrider, not sure, but they've split off and now they have their own moving and establishing company. I could say for their size and breadth, if you've ever seen a strong arm, they're able to keep other beasts off whereas they're moving about, but they own lots of cargo bays in different places, and they move things from place to place by cart.
Okay, she nods. That's good to know.
And you've definitely heard of the Guild of Landstriders. They are a group of large beasts that they kind of work as sort of either load-bearing or carrying creatures from one place to another, made up mostly of capercaillies, which are these very large birds. Sort of like Scottish dodos. Like flightless, or like can fly but don't normally, and very big and muscly.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, she'll nod and say she'll thank him for this information. And just kind of like I don't know, she should say like at ease, soldier.
Well, I feel like Grear would just like nod and walk away.
Because, she would thank him because like he provided
like thank you, but you wouldn't be like at ease or any like army commands. You'd just be like, well, thank you very much, and then walk away because you're not quite part of the Legion, so you wouldn't be like commanding him.
I'm not. Yeah, exactly. So she just thanks him for the information, and she's gonna walk off. Her ears trained to hear if there is going to be a sigh of relief from the group she had just approached.
There is a sigh of relief from Redclaw, and you can hear like muttered, teasing whispers starting from other privates in the nearby tents.
No. All right. So, equipped with this information, she is going to. If the camp isn't very big, she's going to meander into the direction of where the Commander Clay's camp is, hoping to maybe see Hiccup before she leaves.
So what happens is you turn around and you start to go back toward Clay's camp, and you actually turn. I don't know. You could turn and just full on bump into
he's there.
Hiccup. Like he's been following you, but he's very bad at it, and he's just in the way. Or you could like sidestep, and he would. I feel like he's the kind of person who'd fall over all the time. So you could like sidestep, not bump into him because you're a very, cautious and graceful and aware person, and he'd just be like, whoa, and he'd just fall over.
Yeah. So she turns around, he's there, and she does like a kind of Aang Airbendy, like just smooth move around him, and he still falls over on his ass.
Well, this thing is, he spins, he does like a Winnie the Pooh, he spins, and he just kind of like, and the momentum keeps him going, he just goes onto his butt.
Can she attempt to like catch him before he just totally falls ass over tea kettle?
Describe how you're catching him.
So as she kind of does this like move around and he goes like whoa, she basically wants to like stabilize his back so he doesn't just fall over and kind of push him back to being balanced.
I'd say make a cunning roll. You're kind of you're maneuvering his weight in a cunning way.
I dip him and tear away him.
Yes. Like, it's almost like you don't laugh, but it's sort of, you know how to do this and how to maneuver different weights. It looks as at first like you're tripping him, but this causes his other leg to twist and fly out, and then you're able to spin him on one leg and then place him, slightly dizzy, on two steady feet as opposed to tumbling onto the ground.
Yes, perfect, yeah.
And he goes, hello. Glad I have found you. He
she just looks at him
steadies his
expectant.
glasses a little bit.
Oh yeah, because she wanted to speak with him. She says, because he said what? I'm glad I found you.
Yeah, sorry. I thought you were going to say something, so I gave you that gap because we sort of spoke over each other. But like,
No worries.
as you
No, 'cause
finished,
she would say, she would say, well, I'm glad you did.
yeah,
I was hoping to speak with you about the chapter house.
And at this point, he sort of brightens and kind of he's kind of got control of himself. He's not looking dizzy. He brightens. And says, "Yes, that's why I wanted to speak with you. I heard about the thing," and he leans in really obviously conspiratorially, but doesn't mention the thing.
Yeah.
He says,
as he starts just talking, she's gonna like gently start guiding him like to the edges of the camp so she can take off after they're done, but also to
and
keep
he is
them moving.
very, very easily guided.
Yeah. Perfect.
And he doesn't even know it's happening. He's like, "Yes, I want to talk to you about the thing." And he kind of hunches his shoulders and leans in as if he's being sneaky, but he's really not. And he says, the only collection of writings that the Stitchers have is in our sole chapter house, the founding chapter house in Holdall. And, well, you're a tanner. You're very good at taking things apart. I say things, beasts apart. And we're very good at putting beasts back together. And it's my opinion, and the opinion of my colleagues, that those are one and the same, essentially. Did you get my drift?
She nods, and she says, we cut the lines, you stitch them together.
Yes. I feel there's a mutual benefit here. If there's rioting in Holdall, well, there might only be one or two members in the library. The rest of us Stitchers, we're out with the Legion, or we're in other cities doing what we study. We're helping put beasts back together so they can help other beasts put their lives back together. And, well, we can't risk losing the research that we've been so hard won to get. You see, to join the guild, you have to come with a paper. You have to bring something to the table, to share knowledge. And if we lose all of that, then we lose what binds us as a movement. While you're there, in Holdall, could you take this? And he kind of fumbles in one of his many pouches in his apron. He takes out a little copper insignia that is a needle, a thread, and a needle and thread, but the needle is a claw.
Oh, I love it.
Embossed. And he says, take this, and then hands you a letter that's sealed with a similar sort of like indent with wax. If that makes sense.
Yes.
With the other thing, he says, take this. This is proof that I've sent you, and this letter explains everything. It's to give to you the most important texts, really. We can leave some, or others are duplicated, or members of the guild can rewrite them, but there are some Stitchers who have passed on whose knowledge we'll never be able to take, to record again. We need you to, well, I would like you, it might be a bit beyond my, well, I might be overstepping, but I don't want to risk anything. If you could get that knowledge and bring it back, then I can copy it and we can have a collection. And then if everything's fine in Holdall, we can bring it back, but I'd much rather know that it's safe in the hands of someone who cares and understands than, well, either unattended or in the hands of some looter. You understand? Yes?
She nods. She kind of confirms with that Grear nod. As she's kind of like looking at the insignia and the letter, and she's gonna put them away. Actually, she's as they're speaking after he gave her those things, she's gonna grab that the bundle that she has, the wrapped bundle, and she unfolds it on the ground. And I just imagine as Hiccup is speaking, there's just a moment when his eyes go from her to the tools of the tanner, to the tools of preserve, pelts and flank and leather, and she's going to tuck the letter away, I think. In a place where it's like on the edges, so she doesn't need to unfold the entire thing. She's unfolding it now just before dramatic.
You've got lots of little pouches inside that aren't occupied. So you're able to quickly put something in.
But she doesn't want to like put it in a pocket so it doesn't get lost or anything.
Yeah.
And when he kind of remarks about like, you understand, the importance of it. There's just a moment when her fingers like brush against the tanner's tools. And she just kind of says, I do.
And he sort of looks taken aback almost. You have shown your tools very occasionally, mostly by accident, when you were still an apprentice. And I mean, what's the worst that's happened when you've shown someone your tools?
People didn't realize who Grear is, and they would turn kind of indignant or distant or afraid or hostile.
We'll say like the worst thing that's ever happened is that you were maybe looking to stay at one of the hostels in a nearby town, and you were actually run out of town when someone realized that you were a tanner.
Yeah.
They didn't hurt you, but like the hostel caretaker, not caretaker, the hostel caretaker like yelled out, "Oh, a filthy vermin!" and other creatures quickly like grabbed whatever was at hand and they just ran you out of town. So you're expecting like shock, but like there's sort of this from the mole, and he leans in and goes, "Is that gut thread?" And he very hesitantly, gently points, doesn't touch, but points at like a pouch of gut thread that you have for like repairing leather and stitching leather together.
Which I imagine can be used to stitch flesh.
Well, not that you would have thought, but he does.
Yeah. She just kind of nods and like it gives a kind of confirming like noise. He's probably looking at it, not her.
Yeah, and he kind of noses in further. He has to look quite close because he's a mole. Not blind, but very short-sighted. And he says, "May I?" And he kind of looks up with those little beady eyes, almost like he's looking at gold.
Yeah, reverent. There's just a point, like, she has now tucked away the symbol and the letter, and she just, like, closes her eyes for a moment and then looks, kind of inclining her head, not in curiosity, but more in, like, a, what are you doing kind of way. But she sees his earnest interest, and she's gonna, with deft hands, kind of unhook it from its, unhook the thread and the needle, that kind of very particular, like, hooked needle that it is, like the, when you used to pierce leather or put together flesh.
Yeah, it's like a thick iron waxed so that it doesn't rust.
Yeah, and she's just gonna very quickly kind of pluck it, and say, a quick look. I'm supposed to be on my way. But she kind of gives it to him.
He kind of doesn't quite hear what you say. Like, he kind of nods, but he takes the thread out and he looks and he goes, "So fine." And between, like, the hands of two claws, you kind of, like, bung, 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 test the strength of the thread by pulling it. And it makes this sort of, like, bong, as gut a thread does. And he goes, "This is... I've tried to make gut thread, but it's, well, taboo. And boar guts are so thick. But from what I've studied, No, you must be going." And he kind of quickly wraps it back up and then lays it down gently on the case. Not presuming to put it away, assuming you have some kind of routine, but putting it on the case, not on the ground, or, handing it to you, if that makes sense. Like, cleanly.
Yeah.
Kind of puts it in and goes,
you
have to be in the way, but I would love to sit and talk with you about all of these fascinating tools you have. I think they could be of great use.
Just on him saying, like, we've tried to make this, she will just kind of mutter, like, well, it's all about the chemicals you put them in. Potassium hydroxide. It needs to be just the right mixture.
He kind of
And then
he squints a bit and goes, "But Tassie, we need to talk." He seems like he has no idea what that is, but he's now very interested at what you know and what you could share. I'd say like Grear would have this determination of like, I need to get on.
Yeah.
And so like the conversation would kind of like peter off there. But yes, it's not rude for you to leave and be like, yes, I need to go, and then go.
Well, I mean, she will, because, he's very bright-eyed and obviously interested, but she will kind of put the bundle to get back together. And she'll say, there's a reason this knowledge is not widely known. It is only upon apprentices that it is bestowed. And I can't really talk about it freely, but if you were to take up an apprenticeship with the Tanners, well, that would be a different conversation.
His shoulders slump when you say, well, there's a reason why this isn't spread widely, and he sort of, you notice his head kind of turns. He's not looking at you, but he seems to be, for a genuine moment, considering. And he says, on your return, we'll talk. I should be sending letters to the stitches back at Broken Tusk to say what I've asked you to do. Best of luck.
She nods. She says, actually, no, she doesn't say anything. She just nods and says, perhaps we'll talk later. And then she's kind of going to like stretch a little bit and make a mighty leap forward down the hill as she's going to bound across the hill on all fours, being able to run much faster than when she does it with legs.
And I'm going to say you're at the edge of the camp, and it's as you stretch, you start to you really breathe in, you really like prepare yourself for a long run. Not really long, because for a hare, a couple miles is probably nothing. You could do that easily, but it's more just like preparing yourself and breathing and getting ready to go. And you catch gently on the wind the smell of smoke. Wood smoke.
Her nostrils definitely flare at this, and she looks with concern in the direction of Holdall.
You can't see any fire or any sign of anything like that, but you sniff and smell and think, that's not right. You can't see any fires down the valley that would be making a small campfire that could be blowing into your nose. The wind is in front of you, from Holdall into you. The camp behind you, it's not the camp you're smelling, it has to be Holdall. And you should not smell campfire or any fire this far away.
I think her, as she leaps forward, kind of bounding on all fours, a lingering thought is what Redclaw said about that old tree is dead inside, and those tend to burn the fastest.
We are at 3:30 p.m. I think this is a good point.
I think that's a good point, yeah, to finish up. I thought I'm going to be maybe in Holdall, because...
I thought we were going to get all the way up to the guild chapter house. I honestly did, but so much has happened.
Yeah, we briefly spoke with Brian, kind of like I knew that I'm going into Holdall, and there might be trouble. Like, I don't know exactly what's going to be going on. And I thought we'll be in Holdall, but the RP is too powerful. I must speak in my Grear voice to this wonderful frog and mole, and I love Hiccup. I want to adopt him.
I really enjoyed making the characters this session. It definitely feels... It's very different to Balthazar and Pipistrel, where like it's two people who are knowing each other and becoming familiar. Here, everyone already knows each other. There's sort of like a familiarity of name and purpose. It's very different vibe, which is just as interesting. Yeah,
I do quite like that. And I'm very interested in when Greer's going to enter Holdall. The reactions to her might be very different and or to who she is if it becomes apparent in any way. And I'm very much looking forward to how that might complicate my journey, or trying to speak with anyone or get any information. I really hope those 2 rats weren't eaten by the raven, by the crow. I'm gonna be really sad. I hope
I will say, crows are a special case point. They could be called predators because they eat meat and bugs. However, they eat carrion. They very specifically eat carrion if they have to eat creatures. So they're one of the few like predator birds that aren't. Because they don't hunt, they eat other creatures, which leaves them in this strange like halfway point where you're not quite sure where your prejudice lies with that. And also the Legion hasn't necessarily, you haven't ever heard any rumors within the Tusk Legion of persecution of crows in the same way you've heard of persecution of say wildcats or wolves, that sort of thing.
Gotcha. Interesting. Well, I am very interested to see where this will go, as Grear's adventure will continue next week, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. I'll be honest, I think it might even be a 3-episode. We'll see if we can really get through it next.
I really like Grear.
Yeah.
I don't mind her adventure being as long as it needs, and then once our lovely co-player, co-host Atlanta is able to join us back.
It might be. If our co-host is ready to join us, there could be a second interlude character.
Oh, there well could be.
Joining in the city.
Well, we shall see how things unravel. We're very flexible and because we have. I don't think we ever stated it like on stream, but this is very much a like casual thing between a bunch of friends, and if I'm deciding one day that I'm not feeling it, I won't be on the show, and then Atlanta and Brian will do something. So it's very casual, which is why we're just fine kind of mixing things up.
And like shout out to our sponsorship with Roll20. We're not obligated to do shows. It's just that when we do shows, they will sponsor us, which is really nice because it means if we have a week where we can't do anything, like last week, for various reasons, there's no pressure to do a show. It doesn't like jeopardize or like there's no like, oh, you can only miss 3 shows and that's it. Like it's a nice flexible relationship.
Yeah, it's very like the kind of casual nature of it is really comfortable. Anyone on the spot or under pressure, which is really cool. But nonetheless, I'm very excited to join again next week and see where Grear's path to and through Holdall takes us.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really fun.
I am really looking forward to it.
Thank you everyone for joining us this week. It has been really, really, really great. I think we should do what we always do. We'll reintroduce ourselves, shout out about stuff that's happening, and call it a close. So I'm Brian. I use he, him pronouns. I run Dungeons on a Dime. I made Adventures on a Dime. I drew the maps. I'm going to shout that out. I drew the little maps, the cute little... which was really fun. And I'm the narrator of this gorgeous, really fun tale. Also, tiny shout out, I am the editor on a Kickstarter right now. It's got a couple days left. It's called Glam Metal Monster Hunter, and it is it's a role-playing system where you play as a 90s rock band, and you get to be in different like band positions, like the virtuoso or the frontman, the singer, and you have 4 stats: glam, metal, monster, and hunter, and you're fighting the forces of darkness and hell with rock and glam and glitter pants and mascara, and it's like crazy. So yeah.
Actually, when it comes to things that we can shout out, my art pal and also editor on one of the comics that I'm working on, Eve Greenwood, is currently running a Kickstarter for a guide. It's called Guide to Chroma. It is a fantasy travel It is a setting and kind of, if I'm not mistaken, it has like a system in it as well, a bunch of classes. You can find it on Kickstarter under Guide to Chroma. It has handily made its goal, but it has 8 days to go, and they still have many exciting things that they can offer. If you like tabletop games, and if you like especially things made by individual creators, I highly recommend checking it out. They had a lovely live game this Sunday, which you can catch on VODs if you go to, let me double check their, I just want to make sure I get there.
I'm sticking it in the thing.
Yeah, so if you go to Eve G. Wood on Twitter, one of their latest posts is a link to the VOD of this wonderful game. I was going to be on it, but unfortunately I run my own games on Sunday, and it just kind of coincided with we had a big boss battle, and my players would probably be kind of mad if I went away to play a different game that day. But it is very delightful, and I would really recommend checking it out. It looks absolutely beautiful and very exciting. Anyway,
so that's Guide to Chroma. I just stuck it up on the stream, and then also Glam Metal Monster Hunter.
I like that the name of that game is just all of the characteristics. It's like if D&D is called strength, dexterity, constitution, charisma, wisdom.
Yup. I feel like it's got like, I like the 4-stat vibe. I also want what is it? RuPaul's. I want a game where you have charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent. That's not a good public stream name to call something, but I like the vibe.
Yeah, it's very niche systems that are just like catered specifically to you are a rock band are fantastic.
Also, I love the character sheet because it's a stack of amps, and then it's got like your hang-ups, like your flaws are a spilt drink on the speakers, and then
that is fantastic. That is some fantastic flavor.
And it's just and then you can, the different stats you have are like the dial knobs on the thing, and and it's just fun.
That's delightful.
So cool campaigns, maps, awesome. Thank you everyone for joining us. I hope you have a wonderful week.
I can also introduce myself or reintroduce myself. We hadn't gotten to that.
Say who you are.
Yes, I have been Ver. You can find me on social media, Verface at Twitter, and Sticks and Sharks at Tumblr. I also have a Patreon, upon which I bestow many variety of sketches. Right now, because I mentioned beforehand that I'm working on a comic that the lovely Eve Greenwood is an editor on, along with Alex Hassan. They're both fantastic, very talented people with wonderful feedback. I love them so much. The comic I'm working on right now, I post some little previews of it and designs on my Patreon if anyone is interested in things pertaining to strange kind of other like fantasy mythology, and a pair of characters called the Daughter and the Burning Beast.
So beautiful.
Yes. So that's about it for me. Sorry to have totally interrupted your goodbyes, but goddamn it,
No, you gotta say, I was in my head the whole time you were talking about this kid, so I was like, Ver's got to introduce themselves. Ver's got to introduce themselves. Ver's got to do it. And then it just, immediately, I was like, it's gone.
Yeah, no, I totally get that though. Hey, at least today we remembered to thank Roll20 at the beginning of the stream.
Hashtag thank Roll20. We actually wrote a script and stuck to it, guys. Yes. Anyway, have a wonderful day. It's goodbye from me and Ver, and I presume all the love from Atlanta as well. We will see you next Wednesday. Goodbye.
Have a nice day, everyone. Bye.
Bye.